The Minotaur Gladiator's Prize by Celeste King.
Book 2 of the Minotaurs of Protheka.
To be freed of the curse which plagued her, she needed to find a fierce warrior.
The best of the best. Someone ruthless, someone heartless.
Ah, Eroth, but heartless he was not.
Who knew behind all the brawn and brutality.
Was someone who secretly sought love over loss.
Pleasure over pain.
Don't miss your opportunity to get 30% off of the uncut and unabridged audiobook with code YouTube30 on worldsofprotheka.com.
That's right, that's where you'll find all of the naughty content that YouTube won't let us post.
Show your support and help us continue to bring these free full audiobooks for your listening pleasure by liking this video and subscribing to the channel.
Now let's get to the story. This is Celeste King's The Minotaur Gladiator's Prize. Chapter 1. Magus. The summer sun beats high overhead. It must be close to noon, judging by the position. But I'm not ready to let this latest group of newbies out of the arena just yet. They owe me a bit more practice first. "Come on!" I shout. "You're too slow. Slow things die. Pick up the pace." I've been training the newbie gladiators here at the arena for a while now. This group feels especially frustrating, but I think that I feel that way about every group at the beginning. Eventually, I break them down into something that I can work with. A lot of them still aren't any good, but at least better. Then the next group of hapless idiots comes in, and I have to remember how to do it all over again. Once upon a time, I never would have guessed that I'd end up a tutor, squandering my talents away here. I fought my 100 battles and won my 100 victories, and my freedom. But that freedom came at an unexpected price. By the time I finally earned it, things had changed. I had changed. I had spent so long here in the arena that I couldn't imagine life outside of it. I wanted to get out there, but now I don't know that there's anything for me out there anyway. It's confusing and complicated out there in the free world. Besides, the space is better saved for the few who deserve it, those with something to offer. My only skill is here, in the arena. I did, and now I teach. So I stay, and I piss my days away training a bunch of snot-nosed punks, most of whom will end up being more useless than me. But that's the way it goes, I suppose. Watching them, I shake my head. No. All right, that's it. 15 laps around the circumference, and pick up your knees, I bark. You're going to learn precision if it kills you, and if you don't, I'm gonna kill you. An unusual chill runs down my back, and I glance into the stands. There aren't many gathered in the heat of the day like this, especially when the only activity is training. That's not much of a show, but the chill that I felt is explained when I see that I'm being watched by Prelate Jardigan. He's a powerful senator, and while it's a bit unusual to find him here, I pay it no mind. Hopefully he's just bored and will wander off soon. I do observe that there's another person with them. They're sitting in the stands together, and the second figure is swaddled up tightly under a hood. They're so concealed that I can't identify them, but it's likely just a human servant or someone unimportant. I turn my attention back on my training, wiping the sweat from my brow. It's getting hotter by the minute. Finally, I call out, "That's enough for now. Lunch break, peons. Go wash off the stench of failure before you come back." They scatter, and I grab my water bottle. I take a long drag from it, thinking that I might get a little exercise of my own once it cools down. As I pull the bottle away from my face, I see that the senator is waiting to talk to me. So much for ignoring him and hoping he'd go away. The last thing I want is more work to do. He waves me closer, and I approach the fence that separates the stands from the fighting arena. "I need your assistance." "It's gravely urgent," he begins, looking solemn. I resist the urge to roll my eyes at the melodrama. He is a senator, after all. "Something has come up that may threaten the entire Minotaur kingdom," he intones ominously. "Perhaps even the world. I laugh. Okay, I get that you need to look like you're doing something productive. It's job security for a leader, but leave me out of your end of the world rabble-rousing. I strut away, ready to go back to my exercise. I'd planned to wait a little bit, but even working out in the heat beats listening to whatever this is. "Stop!" a feminine voice shouts. I turn around almost reflexively, wanting to see who it is. The swaddled figure from earlier is rushing down the stairs toward the arena. In her hurry, the hood has fallen away from her face. She's a female human, and a rather attractive one at that. She has striking red hair that I find exciting and vivid green eyes. Something coils in my chest, alerting me to the fact that I find her looks, and somehow it feels like something more appealing. I've never found a human attractive before. If it wasn't for the strange tightness in my chest, I wouldn't believe it myself. I'm a bit smitten with her, despite not even knowing anything about her. It's peculiar, and I'll have to think about it later. There must be some explanation. Maybe the heat does strange things to the brain. She jumps the fence as though it's no problem at all and comes to stand before me. I fully expect her to beg me to help, maybe even kneel. It's no use anyway. A woman's tears don't move me in the slightest. But to my surprise, she draws herself up as tall as she can and glares. It's not particularly impressive, as I'm still at least 2 feet taller and a good 400 pounds or so heavier. It's more the defiant spirit that catches my attention. "Hey, Hornhead," she taunts me. "If you see Magus the Great, please let him know that I need to speak to him." "I am Magus the Great," I reply. "You can't be," she admonishes. "Magus isn't a giant twit afraid of a new adventure." I'm too shocked by her words to even formulate a response. Finally, I just turn my gaze to the prelate. Who is this woman with the nerve to talk to me like this? But the prelate just laughs. What kind of upside-down world is this today? I'm Magus the Great. I don't get laughed at and called a wimp by other Minotaurs. Certainly not by weak little human females. I straighten my shoulders and the prelate interjects to introduce us formally. He says that her name is Elaine, and she is why they have come here today. On her neck, you see what appears to be a necklace, but this is no ordinary piece of jewelry. It's an ancient artifact called the Onyx Shriek. "Okay," I reply impatiently. I very much doubt that I care. The Onyx Shriek contains dangerous magic. It's bonded to Elaine and cannot be removed, but we must break the curse and get it off her or she will eventually die. Huh? And it's not just Elaine who is in danger, he continues. The necklace can be used to awaken one of the 13, and if they're awoken in Protheka, who knows what harm could come to us all. If one of the 13 dark gods is brought forth, then they will be free to make our world into whatever they desire. Not all of the 13 are so bad, I point out. I think you could take your chances. I bet some of them might be kind of fun. She stares at me, mouth agape. "Did you miss the part where he said the curse will kill me?" she demanded, stamping her foot a little. She's a feisty one, I'll give her that. If I had any heart at all, I might be impressed. "Nope," I reply. "Look, lady, I'm sure you're really nice or whatever. Got your whole life ahead of you. You're too young to die, I get it." I bend over to pick up my water nearby, taking another long drink. "I hope you find a hero who can set all this right for you, but you're gonna need to look elsewhere. It ain't me, I can promise you that. I'm just a gladiator," I explain. An almost mischievous smile begins to spread slowly across her face. But that's just what we need.
Chapter 2. Elaine. I idly toy with the Shriek amulet, in its usual spot around my neck. Technically, I don't have to wear it, but I can't escape it. It shows up in the strangest places and at the most inopportune times, seeking me out. So it seemed easier to just embrace it for now, to put it on and keep it with me. If it's going to follow me wherever I go anyway, I prefer it to be on my terms. The prelate is explaining to Magus all about our predicament and how important it is that we get the amulet removed from me. For just a second, a strange, scratchy sound invades my brain. It isn't the prelate or Magus. I think it might actually be the amulet trying to talk to me, at least for a moment. Then I quickly dismiss that thought. The heat must have my brain playing tricks on me. Or perhaps it's a side effect of stress. Even cursed artifacts don't talk. Right? I try to shake the lingering sound of the voice I thought I heard away. Then I focus on the prelate's words to Magus. There's an eccentric Minotaur, another arena champion, who now lives on a private island. He has a tome that we need. Magus shrugs. So go ask him for it. This Magus is starting to work my last nerve. This super casual, I don't take anything seriously routine is aggravating and immature. If I wasn't so desperate for his help, I'd clock him. It's more complicated than that, the prelate explains patiently. The Minotaur, Kaltur, has formed a very unusual alliance with the Dark Elves. Technically, his island is a protectorate, and he lives under the guardianship of Dark Elves. A Minotaur? Magus demands in surprise, finally at least showing a reaction to something. Dark Elves are disliked by most races in Protheka, including the Minotaur, so the situation is understandably bizarre to Magus. The prelate nods solemnly. Yes, he's quite hostile to other Minotaur. We can't just approach him as a part of the Minotaur kingdom and expect cooperation. Magus looks dumbfounded now. So, what do you expect me to do? He demands. I may not be a representative of the king, but I'm still a Minotaur. He's going to hate me as much as anyone else. Go find a dark elf, I guess, and good luck with that, sister. If you'd shut up and listen, I snap. His eyes widen in surprise. The prelate clears his throat. Yes, well, he's hosting a tournament at his island to see who the best living warrior in all Protheka is. All are included, even Minotaur, because he wants an unbiased winner. He looks Magus in the eye, trying to convey the importance of this next piece of information. We want to enter you, in the hopes of getting on the island and finding the tome. It's the least difficult method we have of getting access. Magus snorts a little. Least difficult? There's an awful lot of hopeful thoughts in that plan, and very little as far as solid results. My face falls, though I expected him to say as much. He's never going to help us. The whole thing sounds too risky and unlikely for him to take it seriously, and I can't say I blame him. The prelate just frowns gravely, his face sombre. We felt this was an appropriate first step, though you are correct. It may fall through. If it does, the Minotaur government will have no choice but to consider more extreme measures to solve the problem. Magus returns the frown, thinking it over. What do you mean extreme? He asks warily. The tome is our best chance at separating the Shriek from Elaine. Ultimately, we must dispose of the Shriek. If we can't do it away from Elaine, then we have no choice but consider her a part of the problem and remove her as well. The Shriek must be stopped in any case. Remove her. Magus trails off, his expression growing indignant. You don't mean... The prelate does not answer, just stares resolutely at Magus. Magus's face begins to shift to an expression of aghast horror as it dawns on him just what the prelate is suggesting. He looks at me uneasily. My face is calm and composed, I know. I have heard this before, and I understand our mission. But I do not want to die, which is why we came here looking for Magus. I will not beg any man to save me. My dignity is worth more than my life. But I certainly would appreciate the gesture. I think that the tinge of worry in my eyes is what gives me away. He stares into my eyes for a moment, and his brow wrinkles with concern. He looks almost... kind. Yes, he says suddenly. I'll do it. My eyebrows raise suddenly, genuinely shocked. After all his arguing and complaining, I had written him off. He did not seem to have any intention or interest in helping us. I can't help but wonder what caused the sudden change of heart. Is he more compassionate than he lets on? Does he care about protecting those weaker and endangered behind a mask of indifference? Thank you, I say gently, wanting him to understand how much I appreciate his help. After all, my life really is depending on it. I'm not sure what brought him around to my side, but it's in my best interest to keep him there. I lift one hand, patting him softly on the arm. Thank you, I repeat. He stiffens uncomfortably and practically jerks himself out of my reach. I'm not doing it for you, he snaps moodily. This is my chance to see who the best fighter in all of Protheka is. That's all. Then he laughs, but it's sullen and resentful. I guess I should say thanks to you. You gave me a good tip. I never would have known about this contest without you. I glance at the prelate uncertainly. This Minotaur is really all over the place. I know that we need him, but I'm not the sort of woman who's good with big egos. Finally, I just answer uncomfortably. Well, I guess as long as we get on the island, that's all that matters. He waves a hand dismissively. You just get me there for the contest. When I'm the best fighter in the world, I'll pay you back for the help. I try hard not to show that I'm fuming. My life is on the line, and he's cracking smart aleck jokes and worrying about a contest. I thought he was a jerk from the beginning, but this is something else. He's not just a jerk, he's literally the biggest jerk in all of Protheka. It's too bad that isn't the contest we're entering him in, because this jackass would win hands down. It wouldn't even be close. This has to be an act, right? He can't really be this big of a prick. No one is this big of a prick, are they? I want to believe that there's more to him than this, and I'm not even sure why. Why am I sticking up for someone that I don't know? Something that I just met? Do I have a fatal flaw of trying to find the good in everyone? Even someone like him, who I'm not certain has any good to find. I'm making excuses and trying to convince myself that this is not who he really is. But I don't know that. Or am I judging him too harshly by calling him a jerk? He may act indifferent to my plight, but he's still helping us. He's on my side in the end. If he has to save face by acting like it's a coincidence, what do I care? As long as I get what I need, I suppose it doesn't matter. But it would be nice to know if I can trust him. The kind look on his face before makes me think that he's not really as bad as he seems. Or maybe it's just me who has a thing for bad boys.
Chapter 3. Magus. We leave in the middle of the night so that no one can see. Our mission must remain a secret, and the best way to do that is to sneak a boat out in the dark. The sailboat we take is small enough that I can handle it on my own. I'm no slouch on the water, and a boat of this size is comfortably within my skill set. Much to my surprise, however, Elaine chips in too. As I'm tightening up the sails, she automatically begins to coil the rope behind me. The way that she moves makes it clear at once that she knows what she's doing. I did not know human women could sail, but now that I stop to think about it, I realize that I'm not sure why I assumed that. Why, you're an old salt, I declare in my surprise. How did you get to be a regular sea dog? She blushes a little. It's oddly endearing. I grew up on fishing boats, she explains. My whole family. It's our trade, and it has been for years. It might as well be in my blood. I nod. Well, from the looks of things, you probably know more than me, I reply, only half joking. Welcome aboard, crewmate. Want to be the captain? She laughs a little, and her face almost looks startled to think that I can be funny. I'm not sure why that bugs me so much. It seems well-deserved, considering how rude I was to her earlier. Maybe that's why it bugs me. No, she assures me. I won't take your job. You seem to have it under control anyway. I resolve to be a bit nicer to her from now on. It bothers me that she assumes the worst of me, and for some reason I really want to show her otherwise. Plus, it helps knowing that she won't be totally useless on a boat. I just grin. I'm pretty out of practice, I warn her. I know my way around a boat, but it's been a while. Feel free to jump in. She nods. Deal, she agrees. Once we're smoothly underway, She helps me start getting out a simple meal. It's just cheese, olives, and crusty bread, a few staples that are easy to pack on a boat. It's nothing fancy, but it'll keep us going for now. Then I open a bottle of white wine to wash it down. We take our time, eating and drinking leisurely. If the wind stays the same, we have nothing else to do for a while. We're just drifting at sea for now, so we might as well enjoy the ride. I can't help but wonder what else I don't know about her. Finding out that she comes from a family of sailors was certainly an interesting surprise. She intrigues me with her feisty personality. I can't help but think she probably has a lot of fascinating stories. We've established that you're a sailor, I begin. I take it you grew up on the water, then? A little place called Black Skillet Cove, she informs me. Is it nice? I ask her. Her face darkens a little. It was, she replies sourly. It was taken over by the Dark Elves. That's how I ended up here. Oh, I reply, a bit startled. I expected her to have interesting stories, but this is heavier than I assumed. Is there anything left there? She shakes her head. Not really. When the Dark Elves attacked, we did what we could to fight them off. But we're just human, of course. There was always going to be more coming, so everyone left. Dark Elves are some of the cruelest in Protheka. Humans have no magic to guard themselves, and they're especially vulnerable to attack. We Minotaur don't go out of our way to attack the way that elves do, but I can at least see how they'd be tragically outpowered by elves. Even an entire colony of humans has no chance when facing the wrath of an angry dark elf. If they wanted the land, there was no stopping them. Where did they go? I ask, entranced by her tale. Most of them agreed to work on Minotaur boats. That would give them a job and a place to live, safe from the elves, she explains. After 7 years of service, they can get their freedom back. I hum to myself. If they want it. I got my freedom after winning in the arena, and look where you still found me. There's worse things you could be doing, she points out. Oh, I don't know. Until I got cursed with this stupid thing, she says, pointing to her neck. I just flitted around with my best friend Alyssa. I don't think I could commit to life on a ship or an arena. Where's Alyssa now? Her face darkens again. She married a Minotaur and got married. Can you believe it? I laugh a little. You don't have to say it like it's a fate worse than death, I chastise her playfully. Notice the audience. She waves a hand dismissively. Oh, not the Minotaur part, the married part. Ah, I agree, in a mock, serious tone. So, it's marriage that's the fate worse than death. Well, I suppose there's a compelling argument to be made for that. Personally, I have no intention of marrying. It's a vow that I made a long time ago, for personal reasons. I don't have any strong dislike of the institution, but I know that some do. I don't fault Elaine for her opinion. She just rolls her eyes anyway, unimpressed with my jokes. Maybe not death, she agrees. If my choice was marriage or death, I might consider marriage. Very noble of you. I just had so much more fun with Alyssa before, the way things used to be. I know it's different now anyway, what with the cove basically gone. But she gave all that up to be with him. I get to see her sometimes, but it's just not the same as when we could drop everything and go off on an adventure. She sighs. I miss our adventures. I wasn't ready to stop having them. Her plight moves me, unexpectedly. I've lost many friends during my time in the arena. Some closer to me than others. In any case, loss is one emotion that I can relate to acutely. At least you're getting an adventure with me now, I point out. She smiles weakly. I try again. Pretend I'm Alyssa. What? She says, looking at me like I have 3 heads. Elaine, oh my gosh! Hi, it's me, Alyssa. I know I'm, married and stuff now, but, as one human to another, let's go, do each other's hair and climb trees. That'd be fun. So, Elaine practically slides out of the boat, she's laughing so hard. Why? She pauses for a moment to catch her breath. Why climb trees? She wheezes. I shrug. It's a very human thing to do, I point out. Have you ever seen a Minotaur in a tree? She doesn't answer, just wipes her eyes. They're tearing from laughing so hard. I'm having a much better time with Elaine than I thought I would. She's so warm and comfortable, even if she has a certain chaotic energy that leaves me feeling a bit shook up. It's strangely addictive and makes me feel that I could want more. More of her. More of her stories. More of her crazy wild energy. She has a way of getting me to relax, of breaking my guard down without me even noticing that it's happening. And as I listen to her melodic laughter, enjoying her company, I have to force myself to remember that she might be dying. She carries a curse, and it could be the end of her. Especially if this trip doesn't go well. This is something that I knew from the beginning. I can't let myself forget that. Getting distracted by how full of life she seems right now. I can't get attached to a woman that may not be around much longer. That would be wrong and downright foolish, wouldn't it?
If someone had told me a month ago that I would be running for my life instead of sitting in the stuffy classroom of the bordello, preparing to be sold off to indoor, I would have laughed.
The forest is not your safe space, little one.
But there's no avoiding my fate.
It's you. You're the one.
I've spent my entire life training to be the perfect bride for the top-bidding dark elf. So much can change in so little time.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
Your blood. It sings to me.
Please, let me out of here.
You need to learn your place.
Well, what are you? Where are you taking me?
Run!
I'm a bringer of death.
No, you're not dying. I won't let you.
You won't be able to get out.
Let me go, please.
Sadie, I will make you mine.
Chapter 4. Elaine. The sea is calm tonight, and we're moving at a leisurely pace. It's slow, but steady. The wind is nearly completely dead. No amount of tweaking the sails is going to speed us along, so we just wait. We finished our meal a while ago. It wasn't much, but it was enough to take the edge off our hunger. The bigger attraction was the pleasant conversation that we shared. I didn't know that Magus had it in him, to be honest, but he was a lot more polite and interesting than I expected him to be. We talk for a long time, but as the sun starts to set, we grow distracted. It's too mesmerizing, and our attention is drawn to it rather than each other, though we haven't forgotten each other entirely as we enjoy the sight and continue to share our wine. We pass the bottle back and forth as we watch the sun set in a comfortable silence. It's beautiful. A poetic explosion of red, orange, and pink streaks across the sky. There are no words to describe it with justice, so I just sigh happily. He glances at me approvingly, and I know that he admires the nature scene too. It might be almost romantic if he wasn't a Minotaur. Is it strange that it's maybe a little bit romantic, in a way? I finally break the silence. Red sky at night, sailor's delight, I intone. He flashes me a crooked grin. You even talk the lingo, huh? He says, sounding proud of me. I don't understand why, but I flush anyway. I wonder why his praise means anything at all to me. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning, he says, finishing the old rhyme. I pass him back the bottle so that he can take the last sip. He puts it to his mouth, and for some reason, the act feels very sensual. I feel the back of my neck start to burn and have to work hard to ignore my attraction. We don't need to make this any more complicated than it already is. And I definitely don't need to think about how soft his lips look against that bottle, and how good they might feel pressed against me instead. I cough awkwardly, trying to distract myself. It works, and as I look around the boat, I notice that the wind has changed. We should draw in the sails, I point out. The wind is picking up. He sets the now empty bottle aside and gets to work. I like how he doesn't question me or feel the need to have the last word. Most men, Minotaur or human, would balk at a woman giving directions. Even if it meant that they just repeated the same observation themselves, they'd still do that to pretend they thought of it themselves. All that extra work is somehow easier than just listening to a woman. Not Magus. He knows that I know what I'm talking about, and that's good enough for him. I'm starting to think he must not be such a jerk after all, even if he likes to act like one sometimes. Today he's been an absolute delight. I never would have guessed that I'd be able to say that about him, but it's true. It has been, dare I say, fun. I don't want to think any more about the things I appreciate about him. So instead, I take my own advice. I stand up and move around the small rig, helping him draw the sails into the right position for night. It doesn't take long, with the two of us working together. We make a good team, and it doesn't take a lot of explanation for both of us to understand what we're supposed to do. Then he looks at me, and it makes me feel bothered again. I don't like thinking of him as handsome, even though he is. Time for bed, I declare. We both have small sleeping rolls to rest on. They aren't terribly comfortable, but they're better than nothing. The tiny boat that we're on is far too small for sleeping quarters, much less beds. I get them both out, handing the second one to Magus. I'm suddenly eager to get to bed. I hope after a good night's sleep, I might feel more ordinary to Magus in the morning. This strange, unexpected attraction is a bit nervous, but I like to tell myself that I'm just being weird because I'm tired. I wonder how many times I'll have to tell myself that before I believe it. I start to set up my little nest, as Magus does the same a few feet away. Then I lay down to rest, peeking my head up just long enough to wave. "Good night, Magus," I call over. "Good night," he echoes, flopping around as he tries to get comfortable. I lay back down, closing my eyes. I can hear him still shuffling, but I let the gentle motion of the boat lull me to sleep. It doesn't take long. In my sleep, I start to dream. I'm sitting at a round table, across from a woman with black hair. She has a ring, and I can't help but notice that it has an identical gem that matches my own cursed necklace. She rubs her hands together, and then she's suddenly holding a deck of cards. "I'm Rose," she introduces herself, smiling. "I'm here to tell your future. You're not scared to face the future, are you?" "No," I reply instantly. It was my immediate reaction, given without thought. I can't help but pause, wondering what that means. I may be about to die. Shouldn't that be scary? "Good," she says, humming to herself. Then she puts 3 cards down on the table, one at a time. She flips the first one over. "You're going to find true love," she declares. "Where am I going to find true love?" I ask incredulously. "We're on a boat." Then it occurs to me that it could be Magus. He's still on this boat somewhere after all. Rose flips over the next card. "But now that you have your love, you lose it to tragedy," she says with a weary sigh. "Can't I fight it?" I demand. I've never been good at hearing no, and this seems to be in that same vein. "I'll fight fate, or at least get the damn necklace off. That would solve everything, won't it?" Rose frowns. "Why would you do that?" she asks. "It's just a tool like any other." I'm still bothered by what she said about losing to tragedy. I stand up on the table shouting, "Wake up, Elaine! None of this is real!" I jump down off the table, hoping that it'll take me out of the dream. It doesn't, so I keep running away. Suddenly, I'm in a nightmare scene, wishing I had stayed in the tarot shop. I'm surrounded by bodies. Some of them are mine, some of them are Magus. But there are hundreds of each kind, maybe more. They seem to stretch on as far as the eye can see. None of them seem to be exactly the same. Each body has been slain in a different way, in every possible way you can think of, and every combination. I move closer to one, trying to get a better look. I stare down at myself with glassy, dead eyes. It's horrifying, but it feels surreal and almost mystifying. It isn't until the next body I come across that I really come undone. It's Magus, with an arrow through his head. His body is littered all across this nightmarish place, but looking into his face is different. I fall to my knees. I'm not just horrified or disgusted. I feel bereft, like I have lost, like I'll never get out of here. Just me and an endless sea of dead Magus, forever. My stomach turns over, and I begin to retch. I feel violently ill. There's only one way to save yourself and the Minotaur, Rose's voice warns me. I spin around, still on my knees, trying to find where the voice is coming from. What is it? I plead. And then I feel a heavy hand grab my shoulder and I scream. Chapter 5. Elaine. Something has a hold of me. I don't know who it is, but in my sleeping state, I feel trapped. I know that it's a dream, but I can't seem to shake it. It won't let go of me, no matter how much I fight. I'm trying to listen to Rose's directions, and whatever this is, they're pulling me away. Elaine. I hear a voice call. Elaine. It's more urgent the second time, compelling me to listen. The voice isn't Rose, but it sounds familiar. I try to shake off the thing on my shoulder once more, listening for the voice. Then it slowly begins to dawn on me that they are the same. As the sleep slowly fades away, I remember where I am. I'm not with Rose, and I'm not having my future read. I'm on a sailboat with Magus, a Minotaur I met yesterday, or maybe the day before. I'm a little too groggy to do the math right now. He's the one touching my shoulder, and he's the voice calling my name. I blink my eyes open to see his concerned gaze resting on me. I don't like the way that he's looking at me. It makes me feel crazy, which I probably am. It's a sensation that's becoming more and more familiar, unfortunately. I wonder if, when I really do go crazy, it'll be the day I no longer think to worry about my sanity. Or maybe I'm already there and just don't know it. You were really up in arms, he says. Thrashing around in your sleep, crying out. I was worried about you, he finishes, his voice sounding uncomfortable with his admission at the end. It was unnerving, I explain, sitting up in my bed. My dream, that is. There was a tarot reader, and they were telling me my future. Then suddenly, I was surrounded by dead bodies. I shudder, recalling the graphic imagery of my nightmare. He pats my shoulder, trying to be comforting. I'm caught off guard by the gesture. I can tell that it's difficult for him, but he does it anyway. That means more to me, I think, than just the kindness. It's the necklace, he insists firmly. It's made with dark magic, elder magic, that messes with your head. There's a reason it's avoided. This curse on my neck has been bad enough in my waking hours. It's driving me mad, and I already know that it's messing with my head. The voices I heard from it the other day prove that. But I can't stand another nightmare like that one. This necklace has taken everything from me, and now it invades my sleep as well. It's too much for any one person. Angrily, I yank the amulet off my neck. I stand up, marching to the side of the small boat. I wind my arm back, ready to throw the cursed thing off the side. Then I pause, remembering what Rose told me in the dream. I don't need to get rid of it. It's a tool for me to use. But how? What am I supposed to do with this thing? How do I make this work to my advantage? I stare at it for a long time, and the jewel is almost mesmerizing. I'm not entirely sure if I'm just lost in thought or entranced by it. In any case, the moment is broken when he moves to stand beside me. What are you doing? He asks. Trying to unlock the mysteries of this thing, I say. My tone is surprisingly bitter, even to me. The amulet has caused me a great deal of misery, but I didn't intend to speak so sharply just then. Stop staring at it, he says, sounding adamant. It's going to drive you mad. He sounds utterly convinced, as though he knows something that I don't. Still, he's probably right. I crumple, my shoulders sagging in defeat. It already is, I admit, and it feels so much more real to hear the words spoken out loud. I really am losing my mind, aren't I? I don't know, I continue. I want it gone, but it never leaves. I could chuck it to the moon, and it'd be back as soon as I turn around. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this stupid thing. I sag down, pulling my knees up to my chest, and start to cry. I hate looking this broken, this weak in front of him. I know that humans are weak compared to Minotaurs, so he already assumes the worst of me. But I've always taken pride in my strength, my fierce determination. I don't break, I don't crack, I just carry on. This necklace is going to be the limit for me. No one can carry this curse. But still, I hate to admit that I've met my match. Hey, he says soothingly, trying to bend down to my level. It's okay. We're working on it, right? His words don't cheer me up. Right now, I feel utterly defeated. I have no comfort left in this world. It hits me like a wave of sadness, crashing down on me in the moment and leaving me stranded. I've lost my home and have nowhere left to call my own. I'm a stranger among these people, a refugee fleeing what used to be my joy. I've bid a tragic and sudden goodbye to my childhood, my home, my connections. All of this is wiped away, and anything left is bittersweet. I can never return, and even my memories now are tainted. They taunt me of what will never be again. Now I carry this stupid amulet, and it's going to kill me or drive me crazy, if not both. The weight of it all just feels too much to bear as I hide my face in my hands and sob. I've never felt so lonely, and I don't even have Alyssa now to see me through it. I have no idea what is to become of me. But then he puts his arm around me, slowly. It breaks through my fog, at least a little. The world goes from black to only charcoal grey, and a step in the right direction is better than none. I'm scared, I admit in a quiet voice. I'm scared this is all too much for me. I'm scared I can't do it. I'm scared I'm not good enough. I've never said the words out loud, but it feels good to hear them, as if the power is taken away just by acknowledging them. You'd have to be crazy not to be, he agrees. That just proves that you're still sane anyway. I smile weakly. I'll keep that in mind. It seems as good of a measurement as any. He clears his throat, then tightens his grip around my shoulders. I'm scared too, he admits, but I've learned something in the arena. What's that? I ask, expecting him to say one of the standard clichés. Something patronising and useless. I won my fights, even when I was scared. Being scared is only a problem if you let it stop you. Sometimes you have to just be scared and do it anyway. He rubs my arm gently. You can face your fears and not let them stop you. You have the spirit of a fighter inside you, you know. I do, I ask, perking up a bit. Being thought of as strong by a big arena-fighting Minotaur means something to me. The compliment now, at what feels like my lowest, is significant. Others might not treasure it as much as I do, but I've always valued my strength. Yes, he says, sounding serious. I can tell that he's not just humouring me, or at least I want to believe that. I saw it in your eyes the first time that you spoke to me. You forced me to stop and listen to you, and you called me a wussy. He laughs softly at the memory. No one, and I mean no one, talks to me like that, but you did. You're a fighter, Elaine, and you're going to fight until you win. I lean my head on his shoulder, suddenly feeling like a weight has lifted off my shoulders. His pep talk is just what I needed to revive my spirit. As we sail off into whatever adventure awaits us, I feel that I can face anything with him cheering me on.
Chapter 6, Magus. As I hold Elaine, trying to comfort her, I can feel her begin to relax. She was stiff and tense when she first woke up from her bad dream, but my soothing words and tender administrations begin to work through her tough outer exterior. She slowly begins to calm, and eventually falls back to sleep. That's it, I coo. Go to sleep. Her head resting on my shoulder makes me feel warm in an unexpected way. I like that I can provide this kind of comfort to her. She seems so tough. Even when she was upset, it was thanks to the influence of that horrible necklace. At least, I firmly believe so. There aren't many people who could be cursed like this and have the will to hold it together, searching for the cure. I guess it's true that you never know how strong you are until you have to find out. But I meant what I said to her, that being afraid is one thing. Courage is when you face it even despite your fear, not the absence of fear altogether. I like that I can make her feel a bit stronger, a bit more ready to take on her problems. It makes me feel as though maybe I'm finally contributing something useful, even if it's just supporting a true star like her. I've never really felt like I've paid my debt to society, even though I technically won my freedom. Sure, I did my battles in the arena, but that was only for my own selfish gain. Though I met the goal, it doesn't feel impressive enough. I know that I'm tough. I know that I'm fierce and strong and all of that. But as much as we all pretend that's all that matters in the world, I know that it isn't. If I was measured by the weights that I can lift, I'd be a great success. But that isn't enough. And in so many ways, I've been found wanting. I've spent my life at the arena, even after I earned my freedom, because I knew that I really didn't belong out there. I wonder if Elaine has any idea why I hide myself away in the arena. She called me a wussy the first time she met me, and if she only knew the half of it. Perhaps somehow, she could sense more than she let on what a failure I am. Do you know, I ask her, though I don't think she can hear me, do you know what I am? Who I am? Or maybe she knows my secret. It's not much of a secret after all, though I'm inclined to think not. If anyone were to pay attention to Minotaur news at the time, they'd have heard of Razvan's death. It's been years since I was sentenced for my part, but I'm sure plenty of Minotaurs still recall the event. I'm just not so sure that a human from a place called Skillet's Cove, who had never seen a Minotaur until very recently, would be as aware. She certainly doesn't act as though she's heard of my crime. Maybe that's part of why her company appeals to me so much. I don't feel the same weight of judgment in front of her. I wonder what she would say if she knew. That years ago, I was a drunken idiot who got into a wrestling match with my buddy one night. It might not sound so bad if you stop there. But it didn't stop there. It spiraled out of control, and somehow what was supposed to be two friends joking around ended up with one dead. It was an accident, really. If I knew what lay ahead of me that night, I never would have put a move on him. It was all just fun and games. Even today, I have nightmares trying to understand how it went so wrong. In any case, Razvan is dead now. I can't face the world out there, remembering every single day how I'm there and he isn't. So, I choose to stay away, to pass the days in the monotony of the arena. He never got to move on, to return to society, to have children or continue his line. That's a fact that haunts me, something I remember his family screaming at me. Razvan came from a prominent family and a noble bloodline. That doesn't make his death more significant to me like it does others. He was my friend, and that's enough reason to be miserable over what I've done, but the courts certainly seem to take that into account. If I had killed a lesser man, I don't know that I'd have paid quite as heavily. Everyone made it clear that my real crime was ending his family line before he could sire offspring. His name died with him, and that name was worth its weight in gold. To me, I still don't think that I paid enough. It will never be enough. Nothing will bring him back. Still, I've resolved to atone for my sin as best as I can by never taking a family for myself. I denied Razvan that opportunity in life. It's the least I can do, to keep it from myself as well. I wonder what Elaine would think if she knew this story. Would she want the help of a murderer? Or would she think that I'm just adding to her curse? Perhaps I am. Maybe being stuck on a boat with someone like me is a sign of how she's fallen. How grim her prospects have become. She's sleeping in my arms, not knowing how stained with blood they are. Would she let me hold her like this otherwise? The warmth I felt at her trust in me is gone. It's undeserved, even if she doesn't know why yet. I look up at the stars, thinking about how cold and distant they really are. They're a light that began years ago, having traveled far to reach our naked eyes tonight. The stars that I see tonight don't exist, not the way that I see them. It will take several more years for me to see what they produce today. I'll always be a step behind, thanks to the vastness of outer space. In a way, I could think of us the same way. Elaine has a way about her that I can't quite put into perspective right now. But I imagine that a few years in the future, I might get to see how her strength has paid off. She's admirable and fierce. It's even more impressive that she doesn't have brute power to count on the way that I do. It's easy for me to be strong when I can prove it by flexing my arms. Her strength is born purely of her own convictions. It's something that she's committed to, that she feels inside. She's walking down a dark staircase, just trusting that the steps are still there to guide her way. I don't know if I could be so believing in my power, if it was invisible to the naked eye. It's almost as though she manifests it herself, but she has the ability to make it real nonetheless. I can't help but wonder what she's building to in the future. In a few years, we'll finally see the light that was produced by the stars tonight. And it wouldn't surprise me to think that whatever energy Elaine produces tonight will still resonate years from now. No wonder the Shriek chose her. Maybe she was the only host strong enough to carry it to its eventuality. So strong, I whispered to her, unable to resist smoothing back her hair. And tonight, it feels like I finally start to see what began all those years ago, when I vowed that, after the death of Rasvin, I would never take a mate of my own, never have a family, and instead live my days in self-inflicted isolation. The energy of that promise began to build a long time ago. But it took till now to finally realize that I hold in my arms the one person whose own energy threatens to cancel it out. She's more powerful, I suspect, than the promise. Not that the promise isn't important as much as that I'm weak. My only saving grace at this point is the simple knowledge that it won't matter, because she deserves better than me anyway.
Chapter 7. Elaine. I wake up in the morning, feeling surprisingly refreshed. The sun is shining bright, and even with my eyes closed, I can feel it. I blink them sleepily, taking in the sky overhead. The sun is low enough that I can tell it's still early. Past dawn, but breakfast time. It's just a bright and sunny day which matches my mood. For a moment, I pause to reflect on why I'm in such a chipper mood. I got a great night's sleep, which is unexpected for a night on a boat. They aren't exactly known for their comfortable lodging. Then I recall the previous night. The terror of my dream earlier still sends a shiver down my spine when I stop to think about it. But it was nearly out of mind, and doesn't have anywhere near the sting that I would have expected. All because of how Magus comforted me. Not only did he cheer me up and lift my spirits, but he gave me a pep talk that convinced me I could face anything. Even this stupid cursed thing that hangs around my neck. Then he held me while I slept, and somehow it all came true. Not only could I go back to sleep, but I didn't have any more nightmares. I made it through the night much easier than I ever thought I would. I look around to see where Magus is now. I feel that I owe him my thanks, if not more. He's already at work, adjusting the sails. A quick glance at the scenery shows me that we're making good time. Another credit for him. He ties down the rope in his hands, then crosses the small boat to me. "Breakfast," he calls. "I'll get it," I say hurriedly, and begin to unpack some provisions for the meal. Normally, I wouldn't be quite so ready to take on the role of a servant, but I feel like I owe him. It's nothing fancy. The same bread as the night before, with some jam and honey slathered over it. He comes over and begins to prepare his own, but I quickly assure him that I'll do it. "Thanks," he says, looking a little surprised as I hand it to him. I grin sheepishly. "Thank you," I return. Your arms around me let me have a great night's sleep, though it probably wasn't comfortable for you. He shrugs, as if to say it was no big deal. He stuffs the bread into his mouth, chewing. Then he swallows, but pauses before taking another bite. A great night? He asks. Really? I nod. I didn't have a single nightmare. In fact, I slept so well I forgot all about it until this morning. I guess having you with me kept the amulet from messing with me, somehow. He ponders this, looking interested. I guess maybe it's because Minotaur are immune to magic. He wonders out loud. Maybe the anti-magic properties in our blood somehow transferred to you, sort of by contact. He takes another bite, finishing his bread. Then he scratches his chin thoughtfully as he chews. I guess that sounds a little far-fetched, he decides. Maybe it was just your mental state. Maybe the amulet has less power over you when you feel well, and sneaks in through certain cracks in your armour, so to speak. I prepare him another piece of bread, which he takes readily. That makes sense, I agree. It probably does have more of an effect on me when I'm stressed or emotional. Magus grins around a mouthful of bread. Pleased to be at your service in any case, he jokes. Then he pretends to salute and ambles away across the boat. Off to do my morning duties, Captain, he calls behind him. I make my own breakfast, and when I am done, I join him. The winds are fair, and the sailing this morning is smooth. Still, there's a regular amount of work to keep us on track and making good time. Sails must be trimmed and let out as the winds fluctuate, a job that rarely stops. The two of us work in peaceful silence for a while, but I can't help but wonder more about this Minotaur who has piqued my curiosity. I thought he was something of an ass when he first met, but he's much more compassionate than I would have given him credit for. It's not very surprising to me that he keeps a tough exterior the way that he does. I have to imagine that life as a gladiator makes that a necessity. I wonder what a job like that is like, and how he ended up in it. When we hit a lull, I voice the question. How did you become a gladiator? His expression changes, his shoulders stiffening. Right away, I can tell that I've struck a nerve, even though I didn't mean to. I assumed it was something that he picked, an innocent conversation piece. I'm reminded, by his demeanour, how little I know about Minotaur life. Magus gazes out over the water, and his eyes are full of sorrow for just a split second. Then his face hardens again, his eyes stealing over. He never does answer the question, just goes back to shuffling around the boat wordlessly. I don't dare ask a second time. Instead, we work in silence again. This time, it's something that we're both awkwardly and painfully aware of. But I'm not sure either of us knows how to break the tension. I'm full of remorse for triggering whatever the painful memory is, but I don't know how to move past it. I wish I could make a joke or something, anything to put him at ease. Now he seems lost in his own thoughts. As I sneak glances at his face, I don't think his thoughts are a good place to be. When I think of how he helped me last night, it only makes me feel worse. I didn't mean to open this wound, of course. I didn't even know it was there. But it's a poor repayment to someone who was so sensitive and caring when I needed him to be. The sun begins to set, and I watch it idly for a while. Red sky at night, I say quietly, half hoping he will fill in the blank. But there's still no response. I bite my lip, staring out over the water. Suddenly, Magus's husky voice breaks through the still evening air. I turn around to find him sitting down, a lantern in front of him like a campfire. The glow illuminates his face as he hunches forward, a grin on his face. When I was 11 years old, he begins, my friend and I snuck out in a sailboat a lot like this one. Snuck out? I repeat. Yes, he confirms. I was rowdy in those days. Anyway, I was running things and trying to show off how fast I could go. Rolled out the mainsail and the jib, way too much for the wind that we had. Oh no, I say, wincing. Oh yes, he returns. Next thing I know, we're knee-deep in cold water, The boat gets caught in the wind and whips completely around. I crack my ribs trying to unleash the halyard, but I finally got the sail down so that we weren't getting beat around so much. Then what happened? I asked. I leaned over the side and vomited. To this day, I don't know if it was nerves or the pain from my ribs. My buddy laughed at me the entire way back to shore. I grimace in commiseration. Plus, he continues, remember how I said we snuck it out? We weren't supposed to be on it, and my mother just about had me skinned for it. She was foaming at the mouth when she realised what he had done. He laughs to himself. She made me clean the entire boat, spick and span, from top to bottom. With my broken ribs, it was the worst pain I had ever felt in my 11 years of life to that point. What about your friend? I demand. Didn't he help? He looks aghast. My mother caught me, not him. You can't snitch on your friends. What's wrong with you humans?
Chapter 8. Magus. She folds herself on the ground before me. Do you have any other stories? I have tons, but one jumps to mind. The same one that has been nagging at me all day, and I've avoided telling her. But I know that she deserves to know who she's picked to spend her time with, so I launch into the tale I've only heard but never said. It was many years ago, I start. I stare at the lantern light as I get lost in the memory, not wanting to see Elaine's eyes while I tell her the thing that I am most ashamed of. I was young and arrogant, drunk off of the praise given to me by my superiors. I had been deserving of the praise, but I let it all go to my head. If I only had a smidgen more humility, maybe things would have turned out differently. I was supposed to be a great warrior. Everyone said I showed promise. I didn't come from wealth or power. The status that I had achieved was something I was extremely proud of, and it was something my best friend was proud of as well. I have to take a pause as I talk about Razvan, my best friend. Not a day goes by where he isn't in my thoughts, but I don't talk about him with others often. Elaine notices my silence and moves closer. What happened to him? I take a deep breath and continue with my story. One night, we drank more than we should have. We were celebrating. He had finally worked up the nerve to ask out a woman he had been pining after, and I was about to be put in charge of my own unit. I smile, remembering both Razvan and my triumphs. During our night out, we were giving each other tips. Razvan had more knowledge of the inner workings of bureaucracy, and I knew a little bit more about women. The longer we stayed out, the more we drank, and the more reckless we became. I don't give Elaine all the details, because it is too painful for me to share the entire ordeal. I'm not even sure why I'm telling her any of it. Something inside of me wants to trust her, and while I give over to it a little bit, I'm unable to fully open up. We used to fight with each other all the time. It was a game to us, but I was too aggressive, and Razvan died. I still hear the sickening crush his skull made when it hit the ground. I'd used too much force, causing Razvan's skull to crack. He bled out on the ground. Watching my best friend die like that, it changed me. My advocate wanted me to defend myself, but I decided to throw myself to the mercy of the court instead. Though I didn't want mercy, I wanted punishment. It was possible I could have gotten a reduced sentence, but with my lack of defense and the position of prominence Razvan's family held, I was severely reprimanded. What was the sentence? I finally look up at Elaine. Her face is solemn and engaged. I expected to see judgment and disgust, but instead she seems contemplative almost. 100 victories in the arena. Elaine's brow furrows. You are well past 100 victories. Why are you still in the arena? I let out a sigh and look up at the night sky. Its beauty is in contrast to my sad memories. I have no desire to return to society. Yes, my sentence is complete, but I haven't truly paid for killing my best friend. I don't know if I ever will. I take a shuddering breath and decide to tell her something I've never admitted to anyone. I even made an oath, just between Razvan and I. I cost him his life, his future, his family. So in return, I won't have one either. I won't take a mate, won't have a family. It feels like the right thing to do to make it up to him. Is it even possible to fully make amends for taking a life? I will never be able to forget Razvan's lifeless eyes, the pool of blood under his body, the wail his mother made when she learned of his death. Every moment is etched into my mind. Elaine and I sit silently for a few seconds. She shifts in her seat, hugging herself as she looks at the ground. I can't tell you how to feel, but it sounds like what happened to Razvan was an accident. Unfortunate, but an accident. Elaine, Elaine holds up her hand to shut me up. Let me finish. Her look is cutting enough to have me shut my mouth until she says her piece. I nod, letting Elaine know I won't interrupt her again. Thank you. She adjusts her posture, sitting up straight. I understand what it's like to have deep regrets, and I know how hard it can be to forgive yourself for said regrets. Elaine's face softens as she keeps talking. I don't know if this means anything, but I think you've paid for what you've done 1,000 times over. 1,000 times over? That seems a little high. I don't think fighting in the arena and training other rookie gladiators means much. And I know what you're thinking. I don't just mean fighting in the arena. I almost gasp. She really did know what I was thinking. Elaine smirks at my expression, but doesn't comment on it. Magus, you're about to save the entire world. Doesn't that count for anything? I'm initially dismissive of Elaine's attempts to cheer me up, but I stop to think about what she is saying. I didn't want to come on this voyage in the first place, but being here with her, it's put a lot into perspective for me. It's made me question a lot about myself and my life. Should I punish myself forever? All this guilt I feel, does it serve a larger purpose? Something beyond the arena? Elaine watches me closely, her eyes narrowed. You're realizing I'm right, huh? I shake my head and chuckle. I am taking your words into consideration. I'll get back to you on whether or not what you said bears any real weight. I'm hiding my true feelings from Elaine. It is true that her words have a profound effect on me. It is hard for me to see that I have done good things. All I can think about sometimes is Razvan. I don't want to forget my friend. I don't think I ever could. But is there a way for me to have a future? Could that future include Elaine? Magus? I look at Elaine. She tucks a tendril of her red hair behind her ear. What are you thinking? Before I can figure out what to say, a strange sound interrupts our conversation. What is that? Elaine and I look in the direction of the noise. It sounds like It's a song, I answer. It's sad. The laments of unknown origin carry over the waves. The song pulls at my heart. Such a deep well of sadness is something I know well. What should we do? Elaine looks at me. I'm surprised she is even asking me. The short amount of time we have spent together quickly taught me she likes to take charge. Maybe she is letting me lead the way because she pities me. Or maybe she values my opinion more and more each day. We should probably ignore it, I mumble. Going towards the strange and unknown voice is probably a very bad idea. But as the song grows louder and more emotional, I can't help but be drawn to it. My heart has been dormant for so many years, but this journey has awoken much inside of me. I had intended to ignore these stirrings, but as the days passed, I couldn't continue to bury my head in the sand. Are we going to do what we should do? Elaine watches me curiously. I already know what she wants. It is written all over her face. Maybe it is time to do something different. Maybe it is time for me to embrace the curiosity flowing in Elaine's veins. Okay, let's go. Elaine excitedly places her hand on my forearm. I'm sure we'll find something interesting. Interesting. Let's hope whatever we find is only interesting. Anything more could spell danger. I changed the course of our boat to take us towards the song. Elaine looks in the direction we are headed, her hands resting on the boat's edge. I watch Elaine for a few seconds, captivated by her enthusiasm. Despite the danger that hangs around her neck, she finds time to live in the moment. Not wanting to be caught staring, I turn my gaze to the sea. The moon lights our way as we head towards what could very well be our deaths.
Chapter 9. Elaine. As our boat approaches the source of the song, my heart feels as if it is in a vice. The sadness of the song permeates my bones and settles into my body. Maybe we should turn around, Magus suggests. No, I shake my head. We're so close. We can't abandon the trail now. I need to know why their song is so sad, whoever is singing. The longing and despair fill my head, and I'm obsessed with understanding why. We come upon a chain of rocky islands. Magus steers the boat to avoid hitting any of them. The island's topography in the nighttime is somewhat sinister. I assume it is only moderately less intimidating in the morning. The darkness simply adds an air of mystery. Elaine. Shh, we're almost there. I slightly lean out of the boat, my body further drawn towards the singing. The boat goes around a corner, and we find a cove. I inhale at the mesmerizing sight. Elaine, look. I turn to see Magus's pointed gaze. I follow his eyes and see a mermaid in the water. She has beautiful silver hair that floats on the surface. Her eyes glisten with tears as she sings her song. I cannot tell if she hasn't noticed the boat or if she's ignoring us. Either way, her song remains uninterrupted. I don't think she wants any visitors. Magus pulls at the sails, leaving us idling in the water. How would you know that? I whip around and ask. We should at least ask. What if she needs help? Magus looks unconvinced, so I take matters into my own hands. Hello? Elaine. I feel Magus grab my shoulder, but I ignore him and continue to call out. Magus spins me around and puts his hand over my mouth. What are you doing? I grumble angrily under his palm. I'm one step away from biting him when a voice cuts into our argument. Hello? Magus and I both turn our gazes to the source. It's the mermaid. She hangs on the side of our boat, her elbows resting on the edge. She's enough of a distraction for me to get out of Magus's grip. I kneel down by where she is floating. Hi, do you live out here? The mermaid doesn't answer my question. Instead, she looks me up and down. She seems curious. Once she is done with me, she turns to Magus. She scrutinizes him just the same. Who are you? I'm Elaine, and he's Magus. The mermaid doesn't look at me immediately, as she is still looking Magus over. We heard your song and wanted to see if you needed any help. She turns back to me, dipping into the water so that only her eyes are visible. Do you need help? I ask. She swims to the other side of the boat without losing sight of me or Magus. She brings her mouth above the water to speak. You want to help me? I feel Magus try to grab my arm, but I shirk him off. Yes, if we can. She still seems suspicious, so I try to put her at ease. What's your name? My name is Coral. Well, Coral, Magus and I are seasoned fighters and adventurers. There is much we can do to aid you. Coral circles the boat again, contemplating. Another tear rolls down her cheek, falling into the ocean. I will accept your help, but what I am asking for isn't easy. You might want to decline. I could tell that Magus was displeased even if he was quiet. Tell us your story, and we'll be the judge of if it is possible. Coral comes back up to our boat. Her palms come up against the woods, and she individually lays her fingers down as she grips the edge. I left my home many moons ago to see the world. I wanted to know what existed beyond the confines of my kingdom. I nod, understanding Coral's desire for more. I was given a conch horn before I left. It is the only way for a mermaid to return home. A sea hag stole it from me, and I am stuck, unable to leave. Coral's tears pick up, and she cries harder. I cannot see my family or my friends or my home. I am worried the despair in my heart is going to kill me. Coral's story touches my heart, making it throb. There are moments when I want to return home too. Sometimes I desire the physical place, but sometimes I weep for those I have lost. They also felt like home, no matter where in Protheka we were. I reach out and take Coral's hand in mine. We will get your conch back. We will not. My face hardens at Magus's refusal to help. I sharply turn to look at him. Though he towers over me, I stand up to my full height to show him just how pissed off I am. Why not? Life is hard. Not everyone can have what they want. I ball my fists and repress the urge to punch him in his stupid face. This is the Minotaur I know, the one who is too afraid to take action and would rather waste away training in the arena. That's no excuse. Just because horrible things happen, we're not supposed to try and make things better. I want to be sympathetic and understand Magus, but he's allowed his sadness to morph into cruelty. We have bigger things to worry about, like that inconvenience around your neck. My fingers twitch, itching to touch the necklace, but I don't. I stand my ground. We are going to help her. If we don't, I will never forgive you. Magus and I stare at one another for a few moments. When his shoulders relax, I know I have won. I smile and turn back to Coral. How do we find this sea hag? Before answering, she looks curiously between Magus and myself. It almost looks like she smiles. But it is so quick, I cannot say if it was real or not. The witch has a stronghold on her own island. You will continue through this water path. When you reach the end, steer your boat towards where the sun sets. There will be many challenges along the way, but if you can pass them, you will reach the witch's island. There is a long dock. She will meet you there. That doesn't sound too complicated, and it is on our way. How do we get the conch back to you? I will know when it is in your hands. My soul is bonded to it. I look over at Magus. See, we can do this, and it won't push us too far off course. No one has ever returned, Coral pipes in. We will. She seemingly accepts my word. Then I will wait to hear from you. The mermaid flips backwards into the sea and disappears. I still don't think this is a good idea, Magus comments. I wait to hear more protests, but he just gets the boat ready to sail. I can stomach his complaints as long as he stays on board with the plan. As we set sail, I wonder what challenges await us. There isn't much that can scare me away. I am wearing a death sentence. I don't want to die, so I am willing to push myself to the edge in order to live. I am also willing to go far to help others, because I know what it is to suffer. I want Magus to understand this. He has suffered so much in his life, but it's caused the opposite effect on him. But he is going along with this side quest. That is a good sign. Maybe he'll also experience a true change of heart. I am more invested in Magus's development than I expected. It makes me feel odd. I steal a glance at him and accidentally catch his eyes. I quickly look away, so he doesn't see me blushing. I shake my head, knocking the thoughts of Magus from my head. I need to focus on the mission. Like Magus said, there are more important things. A small infatuation is insignificant in the grand scheme of what we are doing. There isn't much left of the world after the orcs came.
Savage. Brutal. Merciless.
If you're a woman, you're property. Even to other humans.
What happens when an orc stakes his claim on a human woman? Who would dare to stop him?
Me. Chapter 10. Elaine. Magus and I follow Corral's instructions, sailing through the path that the small islands have created. The rocky formations still cast ominous shadows, but they don't grab my attention as much as before. I am more focused on Magus. I wait for him to say something, but he silently navigates. He's not even really looking at me. I understand that he doesn't want to take this detour, but it feels like he is stonewalling. Like he's mad at me for insisting we help Corral. But I don't care if he doesn't want to help out. I couldn't ignore someone who was so clearly in need. I can't believe Magus was willing to. He was just so cold when we were talking with Corral. I know he's a little bristly, but he was being cruel when I know there is more to him. I was so mad when he said that we shouldn't help because life can be hard. Thinking about it makes me upset all over again. Suddenly I need to put some space between myself and Magus. There isn't a whole lot of room on the boat, but that doesn't stop me. I go to the other side, so that there are a few feet between the two of us. I turn my back to Magus and stare out at the ocean. I gaze up at the stars, wanting them to bring me some comfort. The stars are a sailor's guide, and boy, do I need some guidance. I don't get a lot of alone time because a few seconds later, I hear Magus's footsteps behind. I can tell when he's directly behind me because the sounds of movement stop. I take a deep breath and turn around. I look up at him, arms crossed over my chest. Do you need something? I wanted to apologize. Oh, an apology is the last thing I expected, and Magus seems genuinely contrite. It catches me off guard. I don't know what to say. I had been ready for a fight, and that is clearly not what is happening. I was unnecessarily mean towards Corral and you. I just have trouble. I have trouble. Magus takes a deep breath. In the arena, I didn't let myself feel anything. I did it for so many years, it became my default. Magus's explanation helps to further temper my anger. I drop my hands to the side and continue to listen to him. Not feeling anything was the only way I avoided giving in to the despair of losing Razvin. But the arena was its own cruel loop. If I got close to anyone on the inside, they could be gone in an instant. Sometimes I had to fight them myself. I had known the arena was a cruel place, but I had never given much thought to how degrading it could be. I need to learn how to not apply the survival tactics I learned there to everyday life. I know I don't need to be this way, but it is hard for me to not be this way. I want to reach out and comfort Magus. He looks so defeated and vulnerable, but I keep my hands by my side. I was just telling myself that my feelings needed to be pushed down. Me and Magus. It's a crazy idea. It could never work, right? While I am too nervous to offer a hand, I try to offer some sympathy. I can't fully understand your position, but I know what it's like to wake up every day not knowing who will survive. It's understood that when a boat sets sail, there is no guarantee it will come back. Coming from a seafaring community leads to many exciting adventures, and I love sailing, but it is dangerous work. I said goodbye to numerous family members and friends not knowing it was the last time I'd be seeing them. Over the years, I'd built a wall around myself. Hearing the words, "lost at sea," over and over again, had taken its toll on me. I was never able to completely turn off my feelings, but I learned how to keep waking up every day. It's what made me appreciate living. It's why I always tried to seize the day, and I always tried to help others out because I know how hard life in Protheka can be. I often wondered, why me? Magus posits. Why do I continue to survive and not my friends? I used to ask myself that question often. It drove me crazy thinking about fate and destiny and worthiness. After years of guilt, I learned that the world doesn't work that way. There isn't a larger reason why I'm alive, and certain friends and family are not. It's just the way things happen to be. I know how you feel, but if we think like that, it just doesn't end well. A lot in my life hasn't ended well. I have to resist the urge to tell him off because I know it won't do any good. I just want Magus to see that he isn't this horrible person, but changing such a negative mindset is hard. I wish I could magic away his worries. Oh, Magus, I sigh. You have a good heart. You really do. All you need to do is remember how to use it. The guilt he feels over the deaths of his friends shows he isn't selfish or unkind. Sometimes we just find ourselves in impossible situations. Magus did what he needed to in order to survive. You think I have a good heart? He asks. I do, I nod. I finally reach out to him and place my hand on his arm. His muscles tense under my fingers, and I worry I might have overstepped. I withdraw my hand, bringing it close to my body. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. I trail off, unable to finish my apology due to embarrassment. I look down at the deck, my entire face on fire. I expect Magus to walk away, but his feet stay planted in front of me. I look up to see Magus looking back at me with a softened expression. Is everything okay? I ask. I still don't know exactly where the two of us stand. Sometimes I think we're bonding, and other times I feel like Magus couldn't be further away even though he is physically there. But in this moment, something's shifting. I can feel it. Goosebumps dot my arms, and it isn't just the sea breeze. Magus takes a step towards me. I don't move from my spot. My heart races in my chest as the distance between us closes. Soon, Magus is toe-to-toe with me. I have to crane my neck because he's over 2 feet taller than me. I rarely concerned myself with our height difference, but being so close to him, I can't not see how he towers over me. Magus, Elaine. He says my name with such passion. I never knew my name could sound like that. I nervously swallow, waiting to hear what Magus has to say. But he doesn't say anything. He slowly bends over, bringing his face closer to mine. Without thinking, I extend my body up, going onto my tiptoes. Soon, our faces are only mere inches from one another. I stare into Magus's blue eyes. If I'm not careful, I could get lost and never find my way back out. I don't know if I'd want to. Magus makes the first move, pressing his lips into mine. His fur tickles my face, the softness barely brushing my cheeks. I kiss him back, taking a deep breath in. I don't know what will happen past this night, but finally realizing the tension that had been bubbling between Magus and me sends chills through me. My body vibrates with excitement as I anticipate what is to come. Chapter 11. Elaine. As we kiss, he backs me against the mast of the boat. His arms snake out, one on either side, pinioning me there in place. Magus? It doesn't even sound like my own voice. I have no idea what I'm going to say next. It's not a protest, but an unspoken question. One that I don't know how to formulate. I don't want to push him away, but the question lingers anyway. Should we be doing this? He juts his hips forward, pressing against me. My thoughts melt into nothingness, dribbling right out of my ears at the touch. Nothing coherent remains, not even my potential hesitation. As though my own jumbled thoughts have leapt from me to him, he takes a step back. He growls a little at his name, but looks me steadily in the eye. Don't worry, he seems to say. His gaze is reassuring, emboldening me. My body wants this just as much as his does, so it doesn't take much to propel me forward. I step forward on my tiptoes. He has to bend his head just as much to meet me in the middle, and our lips press together forcefully. He wraps his arms around me in response, melding my body against his. Then, when we are practically blended together into one indistinguishable lump, his hands begin to roam. Fire is licking through my veins at his touch, and it feels like his wandering hands are somehow everywhere all at once. My head lolls back, eyes closed, as the sensations overtake me. His lips move down my neck, his hot breath creating an urgent need in my very core.
Sorry for the interruption. I know you were gearing up for a steamy scene, but it's It's way too hot for YouTube.
If we want to keep sharing our stories for free, we have to abide by YouTube's guidelines.
To get the full, unabridged audiobook, go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Browse through unabridged audiobooks, countless ebooks and bundles offered at a discount.
If the thought of me whispering all the dirty details into your ear isn't enticing enough, use discount code YouTube30 to get 30% off of all digital products.
Story after story, audiobook after audiobook, the Worlds of Protheka are waiting for you.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
But unabridged, it's unforgettable. Still, we put our mats next to each other. When we're finally ready to settle in for the night, we look up at the stars together for a while. I rest my head on his shoulder as we point out the constellations, and he lazily runs his hands up and down my arm, tracing invisible lines. Eventually, I drift off to sleep, listening to the soothing sound of his voice. It rumbles in his chest, and I can feel it vibrate against my cheek. As my fatigue begins to overtake me, I can't help but notice how warm he feels.
Chapter 12. Magus. Elaine is asleep in my arms, and I should be basking in the afterglow of what we just did. I am, in a way. The experience was incredible, and I'm mostly full of awe. I never knew it would be like that. It's just that my vow to my friend puts a rather significant damper on things. In the heat of the moment, I cast it aside. But now I can't help but feel guilty. I made that promise to atone for my mistakes. It doesn't mean anything if I just throw it out the first time that temptation crosses my path. But at the same time, does my vow mean anything anyway? Razvan is gone. At the time, it seemed appropriate to basically sacrifice my chance at future happiness. I had cost him his future, and I felt that I owed him mine. But that's just ruining the potential of 2 lives instead of 1. What benefit is there to refusing to go on because he can't? Wouldn't it be more disgraceful to do nothing with the life that I have been given? How do I honor him by wasting myself? Or is this just the selfish talk of someone looking for an excuse to get out of a promise they now regret? With the beautiful woman in my arms and the understanding now of what I am missing, I feel I might just be reaching for justification so that I don't have to feel guilty. For a long time, I lie awake with my thoughts. I can hear the rhythmic rocking of the water against the side of the boat. It's soothing, but not enough to put me to sleep. Not while my mind races in circles. And no matter how much I dissect my thoughts, I'm no closer to a resolution than I was when I started. I still don't know what's right, or how I should feel. Is this a lesson in perseverance in the face of tragedy, or the nobility of martyrdom as a path to redemption? My questions immediately fly away when a vision appears before me. Almost immediately it's clear as day to me. My heart nearly stops as I stare at my old friend, Razvan. It's such a shock that I'd almost think I was dreaming, but I know that I'm wide awake. I've been for some time pondering this. It's more than just my guilt speaking. He's too real, too vivid to be a figment of a fevered imagination. His apparition is not fully formed, but there's no doubt who it is. It's some sort of a black magic or spirit. But he's there nonetheless with a message for me, and my mouth goes dry as I wait to hear what it is. Razvan turns his hateful eyes on me, and I'm instantly full of shame. "You are a murderer!" He seethes at me. My skin crawls at the words, but I can't look away from him. "You will reap what you sow," he declares. "You have taken my life, and you must pay. Your suffering was good, was right, but now you look for happiness that you do not deserve." He points at me, giving me an accusatory look. "I curse thee to the ends of the earth, murderer, killer. You should never know a moment's peace. And if you ever forget your debt to me again, may it come back to you threefold." Then he begins to fade away, and it's like watching hot air rise from a fire. The air shimmers and bends around him, and I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing before it's too late. The image doesn't have time to imprint on my brain before it changes, again and again. And then, just like that, he's gone. The feeling of Elaine's head on my arm might as well burn me. I feel a bit guilty, but slowly jerk myself away from her anyway. Then I shift away, turning my back to her. I don't sleep at all that night, even though the night seems to stretch on forever. When the sun starts to dawn, gray and early, I lay there motionless. I don't know how to face her, though I have no choice. I never should have thought I could have a chance at this kind of normalcy. It's more than someone like me could ever deserve. I need to focus on the goal of our journey, which is getting her free from the amulet. I can't bring worse luck to her through my own curse. She has enough of her own issues without getting caught up in mine. I promised to help her, and that's what I'm here to do. Unfortunately, I didn't think this one through very well. At least now I've learned a valuable lesson about getting caught up in the heat of the moment. I just learned it at her expense. Another strike that proves how undeserving I really am. I finally get up, rolling up my bed mat. I try to keep busy by moving around the sailboat, though it's mostly just nervous work. I'm not really accomplishing much of anything, and even I know it. Still, maybe if I look occupied, it'll make the day go faster. She wakes up soon after, and immediately comes to find me. Her face lights up, and she tries to take my hand. I sidestep gruffly, jerking my arm away. Her expression is hurt, and I decide the best way is just to rip the bandage off. Elaine, I'm sorry, but last night was a mistake. It was just one of those things that happened in the moment, and it shouldn't have. It can never happen again. I hardly recognize my own voice. It sounds distant to my ears, expressionless and hollow. Her eyes flash her betrayal, though she quickly tries to hide it with bravado. It can never happen again, she scoffs indignantly. What a bold one you are to assume it ever would. I didn't exactly beg you to start it, she points out. I know, I admit quietly. I know it was my fault. Then act like it, she snaps. It was your idea. Just because I let you get away with it once doesn't mean you have some sort of claim to me. You don't need to explain anything to me. Like I care. She pokes me in the chest angrily. I was using you to scratch an itch. Not like we had anything better to do. So don't get a big head about it. Her face is cloudy, but I can see the hurt hidden in her eyes as she turns from me. She storms away and begins to angrily draw in the mainsail. She kicks at the rope, swearing loudly. Then Elaine turns so that I cannot see her face. But there's a distinctive motion of her shoulders that tells me she's crying. I pretend not to notice, not wanting to embarrass her. She's hiding her pain for a reason, and I won't take that from her. I've done enough harm, and I can at least let her have this. I don't know how to comfort her when I'm the source of her misery. Her hand darts up to her eye, wiping her tears away furtively. Then she glances over her shoulder to see if I'm looking. I turn my head quickly, facing the other direction. I try to keep my face expressionless as I pretend to go on with my morning routine. Inwardly, though, it hurts almost as bad as the time I broke my ribs. The pain is different, and I know it's not real. My ribs are fine, but no matter how much I tell myself that, the ache never seems to go away. I knew I wasn't good enough for a real life, for happiness, that I didn't deserve the things someone like Elaine did. And I know that someday, she'll forget all about this. She'll find someone who can provide for her, if I can keep her alive that long. She has more to offer than someone like me could ever hope to claim anyway. Right now, that's what I need to focus on. But it doesn't change the fact that I feel like scum from the hull of the boat right now. Still, what's done is done. I can't undo it, and I can't break my oath.
Chapter 13. Elaine. There aren't many places on this damn boat to hide so that he can't see me cry. I won't give him the satisfaction, but I'd prefer it if I could just stop being so emotional in the first place. But he acts so completely indifferent, as though it doesn't mean anything at all to him. I know that I was pretending the exact same thing, so I probably shouldn't be surprised. But it stings anyway, especially because he started it. Of course, it meant something to me. It wasn't just something I did out of boredom out at sea. That's not like me anyway. Still, I don't know why I'm letting him bother me so much. Of course, it hurts my pride for him to say that it was a mistake. It's only natural to take rejection personally. No one wants to sleep with someone just to hear that they didn't mean to do it. It just feels deeper than that somehow. I should be able to mourn it as a bad decision and move on, but I can't let it go this time. It's not like I'm desperate for male attention. Back home, I had plenty of guys that were interested. I couldn't seem to make myself take any of them seriously. I tend to be impulsive. I want to do what I want to do, but I hate the idea of committing, of getting stuck in a routine, getting bogged down. No man ever appealed to me enough to break past that. For the first time, it occurs to me that Magus might be the exception. Sure, he's not my only choice, but the rest chose me, and I didn't return the sentiment. This is the first time I chose someone and had to hear no thanks. As I continue working in silence around the boat, studiously ignoring Magus, I try to convince myself that's the entire problem. I've never been rejected and I'm taking it too seriously. But the more that I think about it, deep down, I start to realise that it's a lie. It's a nifty excuse to hide from the truth. The truth is that Magus is the first I've ever taken a real interest in. That's not an odd coincidence, but a significant piece of evidence. He's special to me, and I'm developing feelings for him. The idea makes my temper flare. How can I care for someone who takes me to bed, then ignores me the next day? I stomp over to him angrily, ready to call him on it. So what? You're just not talking to me now? Just shunning me like a cast-off? You've already taken me to bed, so now you're not interested anymore? That was it. You've gotten what you were after, huh? My eyes flash at him furiously, and I almost hope that he agrees. It would break my heart for a moment, but at least then I could confidently say that he's a jerk. I'd be free of my feelings soon, knowing that he doesn't deserve me if he can act so uncouth. But instead his face becomes despondent. He falls to his knees, grabbing my hand. "Elaine," he says seriously, "it's not like that." His tone is so grave that I believe him, almost in spite of myself. I want to hate him, but instead I find myself saying, "Then what is it like?" He sighs. "My heart yearns to be yours," he admits. "If it was just up to me, it would be simple. But I've told you about Razvin and my oath." I sigh. We've already been through this, and I can't see how he hasn't already paid for his part in the accident. "Yes, but..." I interject. He cuts me off. "No, but. Not only did I break it for you, but his apparition came to me after. He demanded I stop, cursed me if I didn't keep my promise." My eyes grow wide as I look at him in surprise. "You saw him. Are you sure it wasn't just in your head, a dream, or guilt, or my artifact rubbing off on you?" I point out. He shakes his head no, but I persist. "You said that maybe my mental state was why it had such power over me the other day, but you would have been in a vulnerable state from your guilt." "No," he denies softly. "Minotaur are immune to magics like this, remember?" Magus finally stands up from his knees but is still holding my hand. "If it were up to me," he assures me, "things would be different. But I owe my friend and I made an oath." He walks away, making a point of avoiding me for the rest of the day. Even our dinner together is eaten mostly in silence, and he sits so far away that I couldn't touch him if I wanted to. At night, he makes a point of rolling out his bed mat far away from me. I pretend not to notice, as I lay all by myself on my own. It doesn't take him long to fall asleep. When I'm sure that he's out and not watching, I cry myself to sleep. I don't fully understand his commitment to this promise, as it seems unnecessary to me. What good does it do his dead friend? Of course, the fact that I want him for my own might colour my opinion some. But I do understand the emotion, especially believing that his friend would judge him for his actions. It's hard to argue with that, even though I'd like to. So instead, I just cry. I don't know what else to do. Eventually, I exhaust myself and fall asleep. I dream again about Rose. She's sitting at the same table, stroking one hand over her deck of tarot cards. Before I know it, I'm sitting across from her. She splits the deck in two and pulls out a card. "It's just a tool," she reminds me. "Use it. You can avoid your fate if you embrace the darkness." I jerk awake, sitting up in a cold sweat. My heart is racing and I'm short of breath. I'm startled and disoriented. It takes me a moment to compose myself. When I've finally gotten myself put together, I take a shaky breath. The dream is beginning to fade, but it leaves a lingering, unpleasant sensation. It's more than the nightmare aspect. It feels foreboding somehow, though I can't quite put my finger on why. It's just the sense that something is wrong, that some sort of danger is coming. Maybe it's the darkness that Rose spoke of, but I know that I need to be on guard. I take a look around, assessing my surroundings. The boat is quiet, but nothing seems amiss. We're still humming along, just as expected. Then I look up into the sky to observe the weather. It's the same thing that I do every day, the same thing that any sailor worth his salt knows to do. Weather can change by the minute, and it's important to keep your eyes peeled. One missed warning can be the difference between life and death when you're at sea. Sudden bad weather doesn't just ruin a trip, but it can be fatal if you don't prepare for it. Even if you do see it coming, sometimes it isn't enough. There's only so much that you can do when you're stuck in the middle of the ocean on a little sailboat, far from refuge, far from help. I gaze into the red morning sky, now understanding the sense of impending danger that I felt. I don't know if it came because of the amulet, or perhaps it was only trying to warn me. I'm eerily calm at that moment, despite knowing that this is all very wrong. It settles on me, heavy and threatening, but I don't lose my head. Not yet, anyway. I just stare at the red surrounding me, bouncing off the clouds in a hazy display. It's like the sky is on fire, impressive and horrifying. Red sky in morning, sailors take warning. Consider me warned, though I know we'll never outrun it. We're too far at sea, and there's nowhere to go. From the depths of the darkness of Protheka,
or clawing up from the realms of fantasy,
come the most fearsome beasts you have ever seen.
these monsters are done watching from the shadows.
Now, as they step into the light, something unexpected grips them.
Something even they can't fight off.
Love,
Vampires,
demons,
dark elves,
gods.
minotaurs, creatures of light and dark.
They will protect their mates.
Do whatever needs to be done.
Morally grey heroes who will burn the world to protect the women who love them.
10 audiobooks,
Fall into over 60 hours of fantasy romance.
20 ebooks,
Over 1 million words of these brutes who will protect their women.
even if they might destroy themselves in the process.
Get the immersive Protheka fantasy romance bundle.
For 80% off, right now, dive into Protheka at a once-in-a-lifetime discount.
The first bundle to offer both ebooks and audiobooks on worldsofprotheka.com. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this romantasy bundle will make it endless.
Chapter 14. Magus! At first, the sea is calm. Deadly so. The blood-red sky haunts us above, with thunderheads building upon each other so high they look like mountains. But the air is still and stagnant. Without a cooling wind, sweat prickles and itches the skin between my shoulders as I tie the sails and toss any loose ends in secure storage below. Elaine watches, a silent sentinel, and occasionally helps me when the ropes tangle or a sail snags. But she says nothing. There isn't much to say. The pain in her green eyes is clear. I've hurt her. Of course I have. Hurting people is my prized talent, isn't it? Rasvin did her a favor when he visited me. It's only a matter of time before I damage her beyond repair. That's it then. My hands linger on the canvas sail, wishing I could offer Elaine some comfort. These hands aren't made for comfort. The water is so still. Her voice is rough from disuse, or perhaps worry. Her hands twist and tug at the hem of her shirt, even if her face looks clear and calm. Do you think the storm might pass by us? As if summoned by her hope, the waves stir beneath us. The wood creaks, and an icy wind blows in from the south. Elaine rubs her bare arms together to warm them. I fist my hands at my sides to keep them from her skin. We should move below deck before the rain comes. Thunder booms in the distance. The sky has become ominously dark, and a steady drizzle patters on the deck. If we're lucky, we might just catch the edge of it. We aren't lucky. It isn't shocking. I've never had much luck. Those who thought my victories in the arena were based on favor from any deity had no idea how bitter my freedom tasted. I never wanted freedom. I wanted punishment and the sweet release of death, and I was denied both. The boat pitches hard to the right, and Elaine does not scream, but I recognize the terror in her eyes. This is no ordinary storm. Our boat climbs up on yet another frothy, furious wave, and my stomach swoops as we fall back to the ocean with a wet crash. Salt water pours into the bottom deck from above. For a terrifying moment we are submerged beneath the waves, and then another wave carries us even higher. Hold on. This time I brace myself against the side of the boat and hold her fast. Elaine is freezing cold, shivering, and she plasters herself against me in search of warmth. We reach the crest of the wave. Magus! I wrap my arm around her tight as we fall. Elaine doesn't scream. She hasn't screamed throughout this entire brutal storm, even as the ship groans and falls, even as the water pours in from above. She simply holds me as we fall, and helps me hold the small trapdoor shut to keep even more water from flooding us. We fall into a terrifying rhythm. Climb, fall, crash, flood. Eventually, the trapdoor flies off into the storm, and a punishing wind stings my face. The rain outside falls like knives. I struggle to pull Elaine to a farther corner, but the wind and water attack us there too. There's no refuge from this cursed storm. I slump against the side of the boat. I can't look at her, even as her wet hair tickles my chin. I've never seen a storm like this. Why isn't it stopping? We climb, we crash, and water pools beneath our feet. There are several inches now. The buckets float, useless. By the time we scoop out the water, another wave will drench us. Do you know how many storms I've seen? Cyclones wax and wane. They end. This doesn't make sense. She's right. There's no logical reason the storm should have lasted this long. It's unnatural, as though the entire sea around us has decided to take vengeance on our ship alone. I grab a bucket anyway and scoop up the foamy salt water. I throw it above deck and more water sloshes down. The boat careens to the left again, almost tipping over, and I shift the bucket to my left hand so I can hold Elaine tight. Magus. Her voice is so small, I almost don't hear it above the crashing of the waves. I don't think. She doesn't continue, but I follow her stare towards the splintered wood on the seams of the ship. Our ship will not survive this storm. I drop the bucket with a vicious curse. We climb, we fall. Splinters along the seam of the boat become cracks. More water fills the boat, and now our fate is only a matter of drowning on the ship or breaking our bodies beneath the waves. All these years I've wished for death, and now it's finally come for me. I almost laugh at the bitter irony of it all. Isn't that like the gods? To grant a wish and a curse at the same time? Elaine looked so desperate for my help, and look what I've brought her. Even when I try to help someone, it all goes to hell. I'm sorry. My lips have grown numb from the cold, but the shame in my throat is searing. Still, I force out the words. I don't want to leave for the afterlife with bad feelings between us. I'm so sorry for hurting you, Elaine, for all of it. I was an ass when I met you in the arena, and I've been even worse to you since. You don't deserve any of it. Not from me, and not from your curse. We rise. We fall. The water is up to our knees now. Elaine looks at me the entire time with sad, resigned eyes. Do you think we might have been together? If things were different? I let myself imagine it. A past where Razvan lived. A future where Elaine smiled at me with no curse around her neck, or hurt buried in her eyes. Of course. It isn't even a question. Of course, if I hadn't taken that damned vow, I'd be with her. But it's pointless, isn't it? I killed Razvan. I killed my friend. And if he had done the same to me, would I want him punished forever? Another wave carries our ship high. We don't have much longer. Our boat is nearly torn in two. The water is up to Elaine's stomach, so I pull her up against me and tuck her wet hair behind her ear. Still, my mind churns, as busy as the sea below. I know, as surely as I know my own name, that Razvan would not want me miserable and alone for eternity. We were both drunk, both reckless. It could have easily been me with my head crushed, and as we plummet to the sea below, I realized too late that Razvan would want me to find love, because I would want it for him. I have ruined everything, all because of a dream born not of reality but guilt. Razvan was good, better than me. Freed from guilt, emotions pour into my heart. I've kept myself walled off for so long that they're almost as overwhelming as the storm outside. I look at Elaine and my heart constricts in the terror I couldn't feel for myself. I don't want her to get hurt. I've hurt her so much already. Elaine! We don't have much longer, even if things weren't different. We stare at each other as we fall. I brush tears and rain from her chilled cheeks and rub her palms beneath my hands to warm them. I don't have much to give her, or much time to give it, but while I can, I give her all of me. Honesty and trust, and something that warms my chest, even as the cold rain falls. Elaine takes a deep breath and lifts her chin, looking as proud as the day I first met her. Well, hold on to that thought, she says, because I'm going to save us.
Chapter 15. Elaine. I begin to do the unthinkable. I open myself to the amulet, allowing the overwhelming darkness that pulses from its depths to break through my defenses and rise to the surface. I know it will probably be my undoing. I know that nothing good can come from listening to the dark whispers that seek to be heard. Nothing worth lasting will come from allowing the amulet to speak to me. And yet I let it happen, feeling the thrill of coursing energy run up through my body, wrapping its inky tendrils around the pulsing veins of my legs, my arms, and all the way around the fleshy resistance of my heart. Maybe it would be better to allow the waves to consume us. Maybe it is the lesser of the two terrible evils I have been forced to choose from. And yet I cannot sit back and just allow the storm to take us. The waves, swelling and crashing towards us, are steeped in darkness and the tang of death. Its power, the pure strength ripping across the surface of the sea, is a promise of the end. Inside of me, a small voice has surfaced, easing its way through the fear that clutches at my insides. I am stronger, so I decide to do the worst thing I can possibly do. I listen to the dark, magical lullaby of the amulet. At first, the primal power that leaps to action is instant and intense. It wants to be seen. It wants to be free to unleash itself on the wall of devastation that is striving to end us. I tap into the low hum that seems to vibrate through my body. The feeling is almost darkly decadent, like swirling the most luxurious chocolate over the tongue of my mouth. My body is rich with the singing of the amulet's will. Then something starts to happen. Amidst the crashing waves looming over us, a small break in the water's surface starts to appear. At first it is barely noticeable, but it quickly begins to grow. From the corner of my eye I watch Magus leaning precariously over the side of the ship, peering intently into the dark abyss, straining his eyes to make out the emerging change in the horizon. I do not need to strain my eyes or lean closer. I know exactly what the power of the amulet is able to accomplish through me, under the direction of my gaze. That small fissure, barely a dent in the solid wall of water coming towards us, starts to grow larger, tearing through the surface directly ahead of our flailing ship. I catch Magnus's eyes growing wide with equal amounts of shock and awe, and he carefully eases himself back from the railing. The look he sweeps in my direction is charged with uncertainty, but I don't allow it to sway my concentration. I push into the feeling, allowing the pulse of the amulet to work its way through me. Of course, there is a price. There is always a price for working against the natural law of how things should be. I am not someone who is free of those consequences. The water holds a gap deep and wide enough to ensure safe passage of our ship through the swell of the waves crashing around us. Keeping it there, keeping the storm at bay until we are in the clear, is a whole different thing entirely. My hands start to shake as a violent jolt of dread rips through me. I am no longer on the ship. I am somewhere far worse. I wander the corridors of the darkest parts of my mind, the places I abandoned and closed off long ago, hoping to never have to face them again. But here I am. The happy faces of so many people I know and love wave in my direction, walking away from us, from me. I am in the body of my childlike self, but my mind is terribly aware and knowing. I watch them leave, seeing their happy faces as they make their way to the boats. I know that wherever they are headed, they will not return. I open my mouth to call them, to tell them to stay, but my voice locks in my throat. I start to pain, fear blossoming in my chest as I desperately will my arms and legs to move, to run to them, to do something. I don't do any of those things. I stand and watch, my little arm raised of its own accord to wave back at them leaving for their deaths. They will never return. I will never see their faces again. The cries of anguish from those they leave behind will cling to my skin like a dense fog on the nights I can't sleep. A swirl of mist and the scene changes. At first I think I am back in real time on the ship, but something seems off. The sun shines off the reflective pools of water on the deck, while Magnus leisurely pulls on the ropes of the sails. I peer over the railing. The water is calm. Not a single wave or ripple disturbs its surface. I catch my frown in the reflective surface of the sea, as crystal clear as if I were staring into a mirror. I pull myself away to find Magnus standing in front of me. He's not smiling or celebrating that we have passed through the storm. Nothing in the way he holds himself or speaks communicates relief or gratitude. "Last night was a mistake," he says calmly. His voice is loud, too loud in the stillness of the air around us. "It cannot happen again." My stomach lurches. The next words I hear sound exactly like him, except his mouth remains closed and pinched together, his blue eyes turning dark and unforgiving. "Who would want you?" asks the voice that sounds like Magnus, drifting on the air. "You are cursed. You always will be." Magnus's body turns away from me and begins to walk across the deck, but the sneering voice continues to taunt me. "I've already had you, Elaine." There is a cruel, taunting laugh in the way the words punch through me. "You are worthless to me now. You always were." I double over, the pain piercing my chest, the tears stinging my throat. "No. No, 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 no," I mutter. Magnus continues to walk away, a bitter and twisted laugh ringing through the air as the sky grows darker. A flash of lightning streaks across the sky. "No!" I scream, my hands pulling at the roots of my hair. "No, Magnus, please!" Another flash of lightning lights up his face as the rain starts to soak through our garments. "Elaine!" he calls over the decking. The feeling of arms encasing me is all-consuming. But Magnus is nowhere near me. "Elaine, stop! Look at me!" On another rumble of thunder and a flash through the sky, I bolt into the present. Magnus is directly in front of me, holding onto my upper arms for dear life and shaking me slightly. "Stop using the amulet!" he screams, against the roar of the crashing waves against the stern. "The worst is over. We made it through." I don't have time to feel relieved. My legs buckle under me. Magnus catches me just in time. "Your hair," he says, his brows knitting together in confusion. I look down at the direction of his gaze. Among the stark red tresses of my hair, a single black streak stands to attention, as dark and as slippery as onyx. I lift it in my fingers, confusion and wonder clouding my senses before another kind of darkness takes me.
Chapter 16. Magus. At first I think I am seeing things. The murky water of the waves swelling towards us as an impenetrable wall is enough to make my knees buckle. I grip the sides of the wooden railings with white knuckles as so many thoughts of how I should have lived my life, of all the things I should have done, passes before my eyes. In that moment, when contemplating that this might be the end, my instinct is to seek out Elaine. I want to greedily gaze on her for one last time, at the contours of her face and the slight pout of her lips that has been the focus of all my wandering thoughts. My eyes squint in the wavering light. Amidst the downpour, the rush of wind and the rain pelting into my eyes, Elaine stands firm, her eyes fixed ahead, and she seems to glow. Then I notice the amulet around her neck, sparkling in the darkness as if lit from within. And the light is far from warm. It glistens with an eerie aura that reaches up and highlights the drawn features of Elaine's glare. "Elaine, no!" I scream, pushing my way to my feet and attempting to stagger towards her. I have to get that amulet off her. Whatever hold it has over her right now, nothing good can come of it. With only a few feet left between us, the ship lurches forward violently. I reach out, my hands flailing in the air, desperately trying to grab something. Anything that will break my fall. I go down, my feet sweeping up under me as I crash into the deck. I've always believed that the worst of life is behind me, that all of the heart-wrenching things that could possibly happen to one person in their lifetime is in the distant past. I've truly convinced myself over the years that it is possible to harden myself to what my heart can no longer endure. As I lie here, unable to get to Elaine, unable to put any distance between her and the amulet around her neck, I realize I am terribly wrong. She continues to stand firm, staring straight ahead with her back to the mast. A lurch rips through my stomach that has nothing to do with the sudden jolt of the ship careening through the choppy waters. I don't care about myself at this moment. I don't care about anything other than the woman standing before me. If she's lost to the storm, I might as well drown with her. If she is lost to the amulet, then I will be lost with her. The thought that I might not be able to protect her from the wall of death coming for us breaks me out of my stupor. Maybe death is inevitable, but it's not going to rip the woman I love away from me without a fight. The woman I love. My hands find purchase on the ropes from the mast of the ship as they flip wildly across the deck from the force of the wind. I heave myself up to my feet, gritting my teeth with a steely resolve until the ground feels firmer beneath me. Elaine's eyes have almost gone completely white. Her hair blows wildly around her, the tresses flicking and snapping in the gusts of rain and wind as the unnatural glow that surrounds her continues to deepen. I follow the line of her sight. In the middle of the wall of water heading in our direction, a fractured opening starts to appear. Water falls to the wayside as the gap continues to grow, revealing an expanse of calmer seas that lay beyond. My head snaps back to Elaine and the pulsing energy of the amulet as I start to understand what's happening. The ship lurches once more, threatening to throw me off balance, the wood creaking and groaning under the pressure to sail against impossible odds. I spring into action, determined not to let this opportunity be wasted. I'll be damned if Elaine has opened herself to that curse around her neck for nothing. I launch myself at the mainsail, pulling in the rigging with sharp bursts of energy. My muscles protest at the effort. This is usually the job of at least another 2 sailors, but failure is not an option. Finally and painfully, the sails start to lengthen. I hold them taut, securing the ropes into a firm knot that should keep them in place and let the howling winds do the rest of the job. My heart catches in my throat. Maybe it isn't enough. Maybe there is nothing I can do to avoid the inevitable. But then slowly, so slowly, I'm not at first certain that anything is happening. The ship starts to press through the choppy water. It picks up speed at an alarming pace, and the gap that slices a path through the wave continues to yawn open, inviting us through. I grip the mainsail, straining against the resistance of the elements so that we stay on course. As we pass through the canyon of water, I glance up on, marveling at the sides of the waves that curl themselves up and away from the prow of the ship. I glance back at Elaine. Her body is beginning to shake. Her legs wobble beneath her with great shudders, and her arms quiver against the power of the amulet working through her. I purse my lips, turning to look straight ahead to the horizon. Despite our speed, nothing seems to be moving fast enough. Hold on, Elaine. Just a little bit longer. I know that if I let go of the main mast too soon that the ship will flip in on itself and potentially capsize. We could get caught in the strength of the undercurrent if I relinquish control, which would only drag us back into the clutches of the storm. I brace myself, forcing my body to remain at its post. I can feel the exact moment the riptide under us releases us from its clutches. The sails start to slap loosely in the wind, going lax. The mast under my hand stops fighting me. When I let go, the ship stays on course. At that same time, my fingers release their grip. I hear a muffled whimper from behind me. I whip my head in Elaine's direction. Her legs are starting to give way. Her body trembles, threatening to drop her as reaches her limit. The glow of the amulet is slowly diminishing, fading back into the recesses of where it came from. I rush over to her, almost slipping on the drenched planks of the deck, before throwing myself at her side. "Elaine!" I shout as I catch her, begging her to not be too far gone. "Elaine, stop! Look at me!" Her eyes are still closed, her body still trembling, and pure terror thrashes at my heart. "Stop using the amulet!" I scream, though I'm not sure she can hear me. The worst is over, we made it through. Her legs finally buckle, but I'm holding her pressed to me. I caress the side of her cheek with my calloused palm, my heart constricting painfully in my chest. She has to be okay. She just has to be. There is a horrible pause in which nothing happens. It seems to drag on relentlessly, the anxiety churning in my stomach, threatening to overcome my restraint. I'm on the edge of breaking down when she stirs in my arms, and mercifully her eyes finally open. A wave of relief crashes through me, much bigger than the relief I had felt cresting the worst of the waves. Her eyes close again, but I start to breathe easier, knowing she is going to be fine. I frown as my other senses open up to her. A single black streak trails a path through the red tresses of her hair. I purse my lips, muttering, "Your hair." She peeks open, pulling at the strand to see it for herself, but my gaze has already moved from assessing her. My eyes fall upon the amulet. Lying against the smooth skin of her chest, it looks so inconspicuous, so awfully incapable of yielding the power that I know it possesses. I feel the features of my face pitching together in gritty determination. Whatever it takes, I will make sure that she will be rid of this cursed amulet once and for all. Chapter 17. Magus. "Please, Elaine," I implore her. "Don't use that thing again. We don't understand it enough to know the damage it could do. Promise me. Promise you won't let it take over like that again." I wince to hear the pleading in my words. But if that is what it takes to get her to withhold from using it, then I will continue to beg for her restraint. She glances sideways at me, with a look in her eye that I haven't seen there very often. It's as if she is seeing me for the first time, and she doesn't quite know what to make of me. "Fine, Magus," she states. "I won't use it again. Happy?" I'm far from happy. I give her one last piercing look before dropping my eyes and letting out a grunt of agreement. When she thinks I'm not looking, I glance back at her. She's biting down on the bottom of her lip, her eyebrows knitting together in a worried frown. I don't trust her to keep to her promise for 1 minute. I make a mental note to keep an eye on her. Not that I haven't already been. I don't have much more time to dwell on it, however. Emerging from the depths of the mist that clings to the sea foam and the waves that crash noisily into rocks, the island finally reveals itself. Elaine and I busy ourselves by bringing in the ship to anchor as we get ever nearer to the craggy cliffs jutting far up and above us. It's not long at all before a stooped figure starts to take form at the end of the dock. The old sea hag. She's aged and weathered with gray tendrils of her blowing loosely in the breeze. Her whole appearance blends so well into the muted, cool tones of the environment that it takes me far longer than it should have done for me to notice she's even there. She urges us forward with a curled, crooked finger. The wood groans under the weight of my feet as I land with a thud on the deck. Not longer after, I hear the similar but less heavy footfalls of Elaine behind me. I draw closer to the hag, the calm smile on her toothless face more unnerving than hospitable. "We have come for the conch shell so that it can be returned to the mermaid," I state. The old woman gives no indication that she's heard my words. "Hand it over and we will be on our way. It needs to be returned from whence it came." The old hag lifts her eyes to meet mine. There is a milky film that has glazed over the dark pupils of her eyes. She mustn't be able to see very well, but she stares straight at me as if looking into my very soul. And then she very calmly shakes her head. No, the hairs down my spine bristle. The last thing I ever want to do is attack an old, defenseless woman, but this whole situation is much bigger than us. I will cut through any obstacle that stands in the way of the reason we came here. I start to reach for the hilt of my sword. Wait. Elaine's touch is a cool reprieve against my feverish skin. Her fingers squeeze around my wrist in panic. "Maybe we can come to an agreement," she states, not looking at me but at the old hag. "Maybe there is something you want? Something that we can give you in return for the conch?" For a second, my worry that the old hag doesn't hear us returns. But then she tilts her head as if considering our offer, not quite looking at us, but more through us. After a pause, she gives a brisk nod. I can practically feel the relief flowing from Elaine behind me as her fingers relinquish their grip a little. I take a step forward. "Well, what do you want then?" I ask the old woman. "Is it money you're after? Maybe supplies. We have plenty of preserved stores that we keep on the ship that we would be willing to trade." The old woman takes a deep, steadying breath, her face coming to rest in a serene smile as she wraps the rags she is wearing more firmly around herself. "Do you know what I truly want?" she asks, her eyes sparkling despite the milky cast. I take a step towards her impatiently. We don't have time to play word games with this woman. "That's what we're asking," I say, irritation coating my words. "Just tell us and we'll make a deal." She sighs again, this time even deeper, and her words flow on her exhale. "I want revenge." I can sense Elaine's confusion from behind me. It mirrors my own. My eyebrows knit together, and my body is having a hard time standing still. It wants to move and take action. I stomp my foot, my irritation rising rapidly. "How are we supposed to help you with that?" I ask, my voice rising. The old hag lifts a finger to silence us. "There is a cloak with many powers. I once possessed this cloak," she explains, her voice even as she gazes beyond us to the far horizon. "This cloak kept me young and beautiful, and it made me powerful." There's an edge to her tone, and a flash in her eyes that appears as quickly as it leaves. "And it was stolen from me," she says, her whole face darkening. "The mantle was taken and never returned." She finally looks at me, and the ground moves under my feet that has nothing to do with the rising dwell of the tumultuous waves beneath us. "Find him," she instructs me. "Find him and return my mantle." "Find who?" Elaine blurts out. "Kaltur!" The old hag says the name in a seething hiss, her fists clenched into tight balls. Elaine and I immediately turn to each other, our shock apparently a shared experience. My heart is pounding against my chest, and I can see the bloom of hope in Elaine's eyes. I turn back. Maybe it was divine intervention that has brought us all here, I tell the old hag with a small smirk. That is the person my companion and I were on the way to find. Maybe it is merely a coincidence. The old hag doesn't say anything to that, so I have no idea if she agrees or not. I need a solemn vow, she croaks, her voice rising to drown out the crash of the waves. Swear to me that if you should find my mantle, you will return it to me. Promise me, both of you. The urgency in her requests sends a warning jolt through my gut. Maybe it's the gray mist that sweeps off the rocky cliffs. Maybe it is the mysterious way the old hag emerged at the end of the dock. Maybe all of this is truly a coincidence and nothing more. I look back at Elaine. I can see the same reluctance and unease etched into her face. She peers up at me for reassurance that this is the right thing to do. I gaze back to the old hag. This murky atmosphere and the strange series of events that have led us here are indeed enough to give anyone the spooks. But I shake it off. That's all it is. There is nothing more to it than silly superstition. I solemnly swear to you that if we should find the mantle, we will return it to you, I say. I solemnly swear to do the same, comes Elaine's voice from over my shoulder. The old hag relaxes then, her shoulders slumping forward into their more familiar stooped position as her fingers unclench. A small smile plays about her mouth. So be it, she says, as if the weight of the world has been lifted off her shoulders. And for your quest, you will receive the conch so it may be returned to its rightful owner. I take a quick glance back at Elaine, whose eyes meet mine with a mixture of hope and fear. So, where is... I begin to ask the old hag as I swivel back around. But she has already gone, as if she were never there at all, and in her place lies the shining conch shell, as if it had been washed ashore by the waves. Orcs, gargoyles, vampires, ice monsters, demons of the dark. These beasts seek war, destruction, and power, and there's only one thing that can tame them.
Love.
This is your chance to get the uncut and unabridged audiobook bundle.
No detail is spared.
Use discount code YouTube30 for an additional 30% off of the already discounted price.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Get access to countless audiobooks and discounted bundles where I talk you through every last scene.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive. Chapter 18. Elaine. How depressed do you think the fish are around here? Magus asks as I help him steer our abused ship through the sharp rocks towards Corral's mournful song. Honestly, they should give us something in tribute for this. I think it's beautiful. He twists his face in disagreement, but I notice how his fingers tap at the wheel in time with her song. It is beautiful, but also heart-rending, and whether by magic or melody, it reminds me of every time in my life I've ever been alone. I understand why Magus might not like it. The song stops abruptly as we pitch the ship around the last of the rock outcroppings, and Corral practically leaps toward the side of the ship, silver hair flying in the wind. My friends! Her lips stretch in a wide smile. I did not expect you to return. The storm was fearsome even beneath the waves. But here you are. Magus drops the conch into her hands without ceremony. Here. You... Her eyes widen and spill over with tears. Magus makes a face. I thought we did all this so you'd stop with the crying. The fish taste sad. I hope you find your way home soon. I squeeze her hand, and she squeezes back. Oh. Corral takes a shaky breath and brushes her thumb along the conch's ridges. Thank you. You have no idea. Magus opens his mouth to probably say something distasteful. His manners with others are still lacking, as I saw with the old sea hag, so I speak first. It was our pleasure to help you. That's going a little far, Magus grumbles. Here. Coral presses her hand firmly against my arm, and my skin tingles. I don't have much to give you, not until I return to my family, but I can give you this. Iridescent scales shimmer on my forearm, but when I touch them, I feel only soft skin. A tattoo? A mark of the sea, she says. You can breathe underwater now. I hope you use them when you visit me. You will both be my guests in a grand palace you can only imagine. Nothing built on your dry land compares. Magus's shoulders are stiff and his mouth stern, but he allows her to apply the same mark to his skin as well. This would have been more useful a few days ago, might have saved me a solemn swear with a damned sea hag. But he dives off the side of the boat as soon as Coral removes her hand and beckons me to join him. I breathe beneath the waves, and the sea water tastes as crisp and sweet as mountain air in my lungs. Bright, colourful fish dance around my arms, welcoming me to the sea, and emerging from the water feels like waking from a dream. Coral smiles at me like she knows how difficult it is to keep from frolicking under the waves. Do you like my gift? She asks. Magus hauls himself up onto the ship. It rocks beneath his weight, but he lands gracefully and offers me a hand. I accept it, and he hauls me on board like some sort of caught fish. What a sight we must make, soaking wet and still clothed. His eyes linger on my wet chest, and I fold my arms over myself with an amused huff. I've always believed helping people is its own reward. And it's true, even if the response is more for Magus's benefit than hers. Even if she'd given us nothing, I'd have rested easier knowing that a lost mermaid had been returned to her kind. In this case, it's literal. Thank you, Coral. I hope we can visit you soon. With a quicksilver smile, Coral allows the waves to take her beneath them, and in a moment it's like she was never there at all. Magus gives his wet horns a shake. Well, it's off to Kaltur's Island. A shiver, of fear or excitement, I'm not sure, trips down my spine. As we ready the ship for our last leg of the journey, it's hard to ignore the feeling that everything as I know it is about to change. It's morning by the time we approach the main harbour. Thick mist hangs off the sandy black beaches, and tall, spindly, foreboding buildings shine in the distance. Looks like everyone got the message, Magus muses. A little later, and we'd be setting anchor halfway across the bay. There are more ships docked than I've ever seen, so many that it looks almost impossible to reach the shore at all. There are the fat, sturdy boats of the orcs, and the floating artisan creations of the dark elves. One of the dark elves' ships floats above us, sparking the sky with dark lightning, and settles back into the ocean with a sizzling hiss. Minotaur and official government ships rock in the waves, side by side. A long, narrow, unfamiliar vessel slithers by, and I see from the yellow serpent on its flag that even the elusive Naga have ventured here. Our tiny fishing boat looks like an insect in comparison. How many of these warriors have spent their entire lives training for nothing but this? It really is a world tournament. I press my lips together. Magus is strong, but is he stronger than every warrior on the planet? I do hope you're careful. I've grown somewhat fond of you. Somewhat fond. His large hand pulls my hips snug against his, and the warmth of his body soothes the growing anxiety in my heart. Careful there, I might think. His blue eyes meet mine, searching for something. I don't know if he finds it, but he gives me a long, lingering kiss. We kiss until the waves grow choppy close to shore, and then he steers us next to an intimidatingly large orcish battleship. I help him drop the anchor, and it crashes into the sea with a final sound. Do you have any idea how many battles I've fought? I nod. I know he's experienced, but I've seen so many fights. Even the most skilled warriors can be felled so easily by fate. Hundreds. Hundreds, he agrees, I'm not about to let myself get hurt now. Not with... He trails off. He looks as if he might say more, and my heart swells to hear it. But the moment is gone as soon as it arrives. He brings his gaze back to the anchor's rope. "You're excellent at knot tying," he says, instead of whatever had been on the tip of his tongue. "Even during the storm, your knots never slipped. You'll have to teach me when we're done with all this." My stomach gives a small, disappointed flip, but I nod instead. He's making progress, and I can't fault him for that. After everything he's been through, opening up and admitting any sort of feelings for anyone must be as difficult as deboning a plytra fish. I shouldn't have expected some grand confession of love. Whatever warmth I see in his eyes outshines his words anyway. It's enough for now. "I'm excellent at most things," I say, voice light. He laughs, and I laugh, and I wish I could freeze that moment and live in it forever. But the other ships loom large, and I can already hear the raucous cries from the nearby arenas. Today the island is filled with revellers and joy, because tomorrow fate will claim many, many lives. Magus looks at the tall, oily black walls around the port city, and his grin is fearsome. He came here to fight. Suddenly I want to beg him to turn around. We can breathe underwater. Let us take our chances with cursed necklaces and sea hags. I don't want to see him in the arena, bleeding. I can't take it. 2 drunken orcs nearly tumble off the ship, and Magus sneers. "You're truly worried about me fighting the likes of them. I hope they drink up tonight because most of them won't live to see the next one." He means to reassure me, and I smile, but even I can feel it waver on my lips. All I can think about is how many warriors have come here to die. Not Magus, I think, desperately. Not yet.
Chapter 19. Magus. At Kaltur's estate, he has pulled out all the stops for his guests. He's taking his duties as a host seriously. That is, if our conditions are any indication. We're greeted as soon as we arrive, as though we're honored guests. I can't help but wonder how he has the time or staff to take such care of everyone who has made it to his tournament. Just looking around at the crowds makes it clear that this is a major event. Still, I have to hand it to him. If he's going to entice people to stay and participate, he has a certain obligation to provide. He's done that and then some. We're shown to a luxurious room where we get to stay for the duration. Certainly a step above having to crash on the boat for another night, which is about what I assumed was going to happen. But I'm not about to complain, especially when I lay down on the plush bed. It's divine, and I've been uncomfortable at sea too long to not enjoy it. Before he leaves us to our quarters, the servant instructs us that dinner will be served at 8. He makes it clear that we are expected. Based on the fancy room, I can't help but wonder what the meal service will be like. After eating a diet that's largely bread and dried meat for the past few days, it sounds extra appealing. The servant excuses himself then, pulling the door behind him. I roll around on the bed a few more times while Elaine giggles at me. Then she starts to check out the rest of the room. I watch her for a while. The room is something, but I'm too exhausted to be that excited right now. Later tonight I can decide if those fancy curtains are as smooth as they look and check out just what kind of flowers are in all these weird little vases. And are those wall sconces actually gold? It's tempting to go see, but it's even more tempting to stay in this plush bed. I consider even pulling the feather-stuffed blanket over my head, but I like staring at Elaine from my nest here. After a moment, she calls me over in a strange voice. "Hey, Magus, come look at this." My curiosity is piqued, particularly by her tone. I get out of the bed, moving across the room to where she's waiting. She's looking down at a wooden chest of drawers and what looks like 2 piles of fabric. It's folded neatly and sitting on top of the chest. I grab for one and the material falls open in my hand. I realize immediately that it's a dress, in Elaine's size. The other stack is an outfit for me, also sized to fit. "That's weird," I observe slowly. "He didn't even know we would be here. He must have had clothes made in every size just in case." She wonders out loud, but doesn't sound convinced. The idea of a giant warehouse of clothing hiding in this house sounds preposterous to us both. We stare at each other for a moment, but I finally just shrug. I'm too happy to change into fresh, clean clothes, and I don't have the mental energy to care where they came from. It's a bit odd, but surely not harmful. Elaine must be thinking similar thoughts. She shrugs out of her tired old clothes and into the dress as well. Then she sighs contentedly when she's done. I can appreciate the sentiment. I'm tempted to check out the sprawling home, but we're both exhausted from our trip. In the end, a simple nap wins us over. We curl up and pass out into a deep slumber almost immediately. We wake up feeling refreshed in time for dinner and take our time cleaning up in the attached bathroom. With our long trip washed away and our new outfits, I feel better than I have in a long time. Ready to take on the world, or at least fight in an epic arena battle of the gladiators. I suppose that's why Kaltura is offering us all this. If he wants to really know who the best fighter is, we'd have to start on equal ground. Making sure that we're well-rested, well-fed, and in comfortable clothes helps rule out some of the obvious setbacks that might cost a good gladiator his win. Still, I can't help but be impressed by his commitment. He really went above and beyond to make sure this was valid. I can't help but wonder why this means so much to him. But as long as I get what I came here for, I really don't care. That is, of course, the tome that should help us remove the cursed shriek. I get a chance to make my move with Kaltur at dinner that evening. All the fighters are there, and Kaltur has arranged a formal meal so that we can check each other out. Once the food is served, he rings a bell to draw our attention. Then he stands up from his chair. The tables are arranged in several rows, but he sits at a table of his own in the front of the room. When we're all looking at him, he begins his speech. He thanks us for coming, declaring his excitement for tomorrow. The winner, he adds dramatically, will, of course, be rewarded handsomely. We've all been quiet, but somehow the room grows even more still. Everyone wants to hear what the prize is. I don't care, remembering what I'm here for. Nothing is more important to me than Elaine. He looks around the room, seeming to enjoy everyone's rapt attention. I myself will pay the winner an amount of gold equal to their body weight, whatever that may be. So eat up, everyone. Pack on those pounds, he jokes. The crowd begins to whisper excitedly among themselves, and a few follow his statement with courteous laughter. He sneaks out soon after, in the middle of the meal. I suspect that he isn't much for socializing, but this isn't a great surprise from someone who lives on a private island. I nod at Elaine. She knows what I'm up to and simply nods back. Then I follow him out into the hall. He's leaning against the wall, seemingly just stepped out for a breath of fresh air. I hesitate, but he's already spotted me. Luckily, he doesn't seem to mind the intrusion. Magus, he greets cheerfully. As a former arena champion himself, we're certainly acquainted with each other. I'm glad you made it. I think you'll add an interesting dimension to the competition. I hope so, I reply. I have to be worth the money you spent on my room and board. He laughs, waving a hand dismissively. Forget that. I just hope I don't have to pay your weight in gold, big boy. His tone is friendly but still somewhat distant. It's apparent to me that he's not really on my side, just playing a cordial host. He's going through the motions of polite conventions. I know I can't appeal to his emotions as a friend, but I try anyway. I'm more interested in a book that you have, I say. A magic tome that I've heard of. Would you show it to me? He tilts his head sharply to the side, and I worry that I've said too much. I can't afford to blow it, not after we've come this far. But he just inhales, sucking air past his teeth loudly as he thinks. Finally, he declares non-committally, I'll consider it. He lifts an eyebrow, almost taunting me. After you win the competition, that is. Then he turns abruptly on his heel, returning to the dinner. Now alone in the hall, I'm a mixture of emotions. I've at least got a path in now, which I'm glad for. But it's far from a sure thing. It's progress, but it's not enough. Now, winning isn't just a matter of pride. A simple side quest that I can do to show off for Elaine, or as a story to brag about in the future. Just showing up isn't going to be enough. I have to win, to save her life. She deserves that much. The question now is whether or not I can be good enough to be what she deserves.
Chapter 20. Elaine. The competition begins first thing the next morning. The fighters are divided into brackets randomly, with each winner moving on to the next stage for another fight. When it isn't Magus's turn, he waits with the other fighters just outside the outside arena that Kaltur had built for this event. I sit in the crowd, watching from further away. I wish that I could talk to him in between fights, but maybe it's better this way. I don't want to be a distraction. Magus wins his first several rounds easily. When he's competing, it's easy to feel less nervous about the whole thing. He's fast and strong, and his opponents are no real threat to him. In fact, they're not even a match. It's the fights in between that worry me. Some of them feature gladiators that seem like absolute brutes. It's impossible to tell, of course, whether Magus could beat them or not. But as I watch them, there's several that really stand out to me as a cause for concern. I don't want to think about Magus facing them, and I try to push it out of my mind. But deep down, I know that it's only a matter of time. As long as he remains in the competition, he will sooner or later fight every gladiator. No matter how scary they look to me. My stomach starts to turn as I watch. The fights get more intense, more dangerous, and more violent. At the beginning, fighters were simply eliminated. But now they're leaving with broken bones and grimace-inducing injuries. I don't want Magus to get hurt. By this point, I wish we had never come here at all. If I could talk to him now, I'd tell him that it's time to go. We'll come up with another plan for the necklace, I guess. But this is too much. My palms begin to sweat when I realise that Magus is up again. I wait to see who his opponent will be, but I try to convince myself not to panic too much. After all, he's won every fight so far, and easily. Maybe he really can do it. Maybe I'm worrying too much. But then they call the other name, Farid. He's another Minotaur, even larger than Magus. I remember him from his previous matches. He's an absolute beast, violent and dangerous. He's demolished everyone that he's faced so far. My stomach lurches into my throat at the idea. I can take it no more, and I jump up from my seat. I run toward the arena, where Magus is preparing himself. He stands on the side, waiting to enter and stretching. He looks surprised to see me, and freezes in place in the middle of a squat. He shakes his head, then stands up fully. "Elaine, what are you doing here?" he asks, looking worried. "Don't do it, Magus," I beg. "He's going to kill you. Just walk away, it doesn't matter. We'll figure something out, but not this." He gives a short laugh. He's not going to kill me. Then he draws himself up to his full height, practically preening. "I'm fine, Elaine," he assures me, trying to look tough. "I'm one of the best there is. I can take him." "No," I argue. "It's not worth it. Magus, please." But the fight is starting. He just reaches out to tap me on the arm, winking. No one's messing with me. He gives me a quick kiss, hurrying into the arena. I can only watch in horror as Farid approaches. I have that same sense of dread that I did before the big storm struck the other day on the boat. I just know that something bad is about to happen, and there's nothing that I can do. Farid starts right away, whipping a net toward Magus. It wraps around his arm, and though Magus manages to shake it off, it slows him down. That gives Farid the opportunity to unsheath his sword. Magus dodges it in the nick of time. But it looks like the blunt weight of the blade must have hit him, even if it didn't cut. Magus seems to be holding his side as though he's sore. Magus returns the blow with his own weapon, a trident. He's moving slow and continues to favour that one side. The battle goes on for a while, and it's a gruelling exchange. Magus isn't getting ahead. If anything, I'm worried that he's tiring out. Farid is so strong. Magus is defending himself for now, but barely. And how long can that last? He trips, scrambling away from another attack. I hold my breath as Farid stabs aggressively, letting it out shakily as Magus rolls away at the last second. He's losing, I realise in horror. My stomach feels full of lead at the thought. My head is dizzy and hot, and I think I might pass out. My vision wavers, and at first, I think that I really am fainting. I'm overwhelmed by the stress of the situation and about to collapse. But then I realise it's not my eyes, but something in the air. It's like little particles of dust flying all around me, but they're dark and pulling together. The dust settles into a more visible shape as Rose materialises before me. I shake my head, thinking that I must be making this all up. Of course, that's the way I've felt from the beginning. It's hard to find logic in the illogical. I close my eyes, wondering why she is here. I'm not even asleep now, like I usually am when I have my visions. Does this mean that the amulet's power is growing? Or at least its hold over me? I blink my eyes open again, but she's still there. She's staring at me with a knowing smirk, and I glance around me. No one else seems to see her, or if they do, they don't care. His tools aren't working, are they? She observes knowingly, looking out over the scene. She flips her black hair over her shoulder casually. Do you want the amulet's help? The look on her face is smug, as though she knows she has me up against a wall. It bothers me, making me feel immediately suspicious. I'd do anything to make this stop, but I don't trust this power, especially not when she looks at me like that. I finger the dark streak in my hair nervously, not even noticing that I'm doing it. I can't. I fret, chewing my lip. I'm afraid of whatever this is, but there's still a part of me tempted by her offer. She eyes me coolly, her lips pressed together in a thin line. Fine, she replies. Have it your way. Rose turns her back on me, watching the fight again. She begins to shimmer, as though she might disappear. My heart feels so tight in my chest, as though it could explode any moment. She's not going to just leave him here like that, is she? I follow her gaze, seeing Magus's struggle. No, I blurt out, before I even know what I'm saying. I know that I promised Magus I wouldn't, but I feel as though I have no choice. I've seen the power of the amulet, and I'm confident that it can save him. My only worry is what it may do to me in the process. But I have to try. No, I repeat. Don't go. Help me. Help him. I beg. She turns back around, and her eyes light up. She grins, and it sends a shiver down my spine. Still, there's no other way. You know what to do, she reminds me, and then she's gone. I blink a few times, feeling as though I'm losing my mind. But there's no time to worry about that now. I close my eyes, my fingers resting on the amulet. I can feel it begin to burn against my skin. It's not so hot that it hurts, but I can't ignore it. I concentrate, feeling the power of it begin to course through me. I'm sorry, Magus, I mutter. It's for your own good. And soon I can say nothing else, caught up in the spell of the shriek.
Chapter 21. Magus. I step into the ring knowing my next opponent is more formidable than my previous ones. It's not just his size or fierce expression. I can see that he has a command of his body. As we begin to fight, my assessment of him was correct. Farid is a decent fighter, the best I have come against in the competition, but he has his flaws. He's a mighty fighter and strong, but like many, his pride is easy to use against him. He revels too much in landing a blow or surprising his opponent. The cheers from the crowd also distract him. His ears perk up at the sound. It is easy for me to form a plan to bring him down. Farid has managed to land a few blows on my body. There was a particularly nasty one to my side. His sword cut deep, but I'm used to fighting with injuries that would incapacitate others. To give Farid a false sense of security, I pretend the injury has affected more than it actually has. While the arena is a dangerous place, what some people fail to realize is that it is also a theater. We have an audience for a reason. As the fight goes on, I act as if the injury is worsening, forcing me to favor my other side. I hear the crowd calling for my blood. They have bought into my performance as well, urging Farid to finish the fight. I see the spark in Farid's eyes. He believes he is winning, and the cheers are boosting his ego. He isn't a clever fighter. While these fights can be deadly, you don't have to die to lose. In this tournament, submission is allowed, though death seems preferred. If not death, then carnage. Many on the island are bloodthirsty, feeding into the frenzy of competition. But none of this concerns me. I am only focused on winning. Winning for Elaine. Farid fights for glory. I've always seen that as an empty goal. The crowds are fickle and can turn on you in a second. Many like the attention, but attention only brought more problems in my opinion. I fight for Elaine. I cannot fail because if I fail, she will die. I felt responsible for so many deaths, and she helped me come to terms with my past. I'd been racked with guilt for years, and I still have complicated emotions, but Elaine has shown me that I don't need to punish myself forever. She helped me see that I can hope for a brighter future, a future that includes her. She's done so much for me, and I don't know if I would be able to forgive myself if I lose this chance to save her. It might be a lot to put on one person, but Elaine is the one person I deeply care for. But it's not just my deeper motivation on my side. My years in the arena taught me many tricks. While raw skill can take you very far in a fight, there are psychological tricks one can play. It's as much of a mind game as a physical one. If Farid had applied more discretion, he may have been able to catch on to my game, but he continues to feed into my perceived weakness, overextending himself to show off how strong he is. He toys with me a little bit, acting like he's giving me some slack before landing a hard blow with his fist or the butt of his sword. I have to stop smiling. He probably believes his movements are causing me confusion, but his tactics are ones I see in the rookies I train. Toying with an opponent when you think you have the upper hand wastes time and energy. It's never worth it. Sure, the cheering can feel good, but getting the win is better. That's the whole point. It makes me wonder how he got so strong without getting past the basics of fighting. I'd known rookies who wouldn't listen to the trainers and would make simple mistakes. Farid could potentially be one of those people. Whatever the reason, it is better for me because I can use his faults to my advantage. I let his net catch on my feet, acting as if my reflexes have slowed down. He pulls, and I fall. I feign pain as Farid walks over to me. He treats his walk over like it's a victor's match. He looks out to the stands, gloating. I impatiently wait for Farid to make his next move. He finally starts moving a little quicker. I make it seem like my attempts to get up are thwarted by an injury to my side. When Farid reaches me, he sneers at me. "Weak!" he spits out. I suppress my rising anger, waiting for just the right moment to strike. When he looks away, I place my hand on my trident, making sure to mask my intentions. Farid raises his arms up as he aims to strike me in the chest, but he never makes the hit. I watch in confusion as his arms drop to his sides. It doesn't seem voluntary. Something is wrong. Farid's body begins convulsing slightly. He seems to be having some kind of seizure. Black tears leak out of his eyes, seeping into his fur. It looks like he's having some kind of aneurysm. It's strangely timed, but it means I can quickly end this fight. I use whatever is happening as an opportunity to strike, driving my trident through his chest. The crowd cheers as blood spurts out of Farid's mouth. It doesn't seem like anyone has noticed Farid's medical episode. He has black fur, so the tears aren't visible from far away, and the seizure wasn't too violent, which is odd. Something about it seems too perfect, as if it was meant to help me in some way. I throw Farid's body to the ground, standing up and over him. His body twitches as life leaves him. As my thoughts settle, I start to form an idea of what might have happened. I drive my spear through Farid's head to get rid of any potential evidence. Fighting dirty is often ignored in bouts like this, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. What I'm more concerned about is evidence of Elaine using the amulet, and what it could mean if it got into the wrong hands. That thing is powerful and could cause serious damage if used with abandon. Satisfied with the fight's end, I scan the stands looking for Elaine. It doesn't take me long to spot her. A few onlookers have gathered around her body. Seeing her on the ground like that sends panic through my body. I'm too far away to see if she's okay, to see if she's breathing. I run over to her, ignoring the referee trying to raise my hand in victory. If Elaine dies, none of it will even matter. My victory is meaningless without her by my side. I leap over barriers and push past the crowd to get to Elaine. She's on the ground taking shallow breaths. I feel some relief knowing she's alive, but the scene before me isn't pleasant. The amulet takes her energy, and if it is the reason why she passed out, she's only killing herself. Move! I yell at those who have circled around her. They quickly get out of my way. I bend down and slip my hands under her limp body. She looks so helpless and small. As I bring her to my body, I notice another dark streak in her hair. My worst fears are confirmed. She used the amulet despite my warnings, despite me saying I could take care of myself. Why would she do something so reckless knowing the effect it has on her? I want to shake her awake and yell, but I can't even do that. My heart trembles seeing how easy it would be for me to lose her. What do I do? I can't go on without her, but how do I protect Elaine from herself? Chapter 22. Magus. I leave the arena with Elaine cradled in my chest. I don't know what to do. I'm not just worried for Elaine, but I'm also a little upset with her. I told her I could take care of myself. The fight probably looked bad from her vantage point, but I just needed her to trust me. Trust that I know what I'm doing. Victory was in my hands. Elaine used the power of the amulet for no reason. She endangered herself to save me, and I didn't need saving. Don't have time to tell Elaine my tactics for the fights. There would be moments when things looked dire or actually got dire. Either way, I don't want Elaine almost killing herself just to save me. The whole point of this mission is to save her life, and I am committed to that goal. And it looks like the only way to keep Elaine safe is to keep her away from the arena. Initially, when she came to me telling me not to fight, I thought I'd be able to assuage her fears by winning against Farid, but the amulet's power proved too enticing. I don't have the ability to monitor Elaine, and there's no way for me to separate Elaine from the necklace, so the next option is to separate Elaine and myself. I need to get her away from here. I don't want to let her go, but it's the only way. I realized how I felt about her after the first time she used the shriek, and though I've tried to push those emotions down, I can't ignore them anymore. I love her. I love her in a way I've never loved anyone else, and I haven't even gotten the chance to tell her how I feel. Letting out a deep sigh, I look around. Elaine and I are no longer near the arena, the sounds of fighting and bloodthirst comfortably in the distance. As I look down at Elaine, I know what I have to do. I head to the harbor and inquire about boats that will soon be leaving. I am pointed to a nicely sized vessel. Hello? I step around the boat, looking for a captain or crew member. A fellow Minotaur appears, looking at me curiously, particularly at the human I have unconscious in my arms. Can I help you? Possibly. I need to get her off the island. I motion down to Elaine. The Minotaur looks at me, their expression more apprehensive than curious now. You want to put her on this boat? He asks, pointing at her. I nod. I can pay. I don't want to get into the specifics of our situation. It's too complicated anyway. Money is good, but I don't want any trouble. I understand her hesitancy. If I were in his shoes, I wouldn't trust someone I didn't know asking me to transport an unconscious human. Why do you need her on this boat? While I don't want to give the whole story, exposing a bit of the truth should be enough to get me what I want. She isn't Safe here. I'm fighting in the tournament, so I can't keep an eye on her all the time. And I've seen that there are dangers lurking that become emboldened when I am not around. I don't want to lose her, so I need to send her away. My answer is vague, but none of it is a lie. It actually affects me a little bit. I look down at Elaine and the necklace she wears. If only I could get it off her right now. Then we could leave together. But if I thought about it, that necklace is the reason we crossed paths. Fate is funny that way. Or maybe it is all just random coincidences. We would have ended up together regardless. Either way, she is in my life now, and I am going to protect her. I look back up to see the other Minotaur looking at me still. He remains quiet, but his face is contemplative. After a few seconds, he nods. Okay, I'll take her. Thank you, for a fee. Of course. I wouldn't expect anything less. He names his price, and I hand over the money. Usually there would be some haggling, but I don't care to bargain for Elaine's life. As I hand over the coins, the Minotaur tells me his name. I am Thyami, by the way. There will be a couple others on my boat. I will make them aware of the situation. Thank you. Thyami leads me to a hold under the deck where I can leave Elaine. After laying her down, I stare at her face. It is already committed to my memory. I just want to look at her for as long as I can. Is there anything you want me to tell her when she wakes up? I turn to Thyami as he asks the question. I'll write her a letter. Can you make sure she gets it? Of course. Do you need some paper, a pen? Yes, I don't have any with me. I begin to feel the impulsiveness of my decision. There is so much I want to say to Elaine before she goes, and I'd rather say it to her while she is awake, but there isn't enough time. Plus, I don't think she would agree to leave. While her stubbornness is one thing I love about her, it also means she would never dream of leaving in the middle of our mission. She might hate me for making this choice for her, but I'd rather she be upset with me than dead. Thyami soon returns with the needed materials. He hands them to me and quickly leaves again. He seems to understand what is going on, though he doesn't ask many probing questions. I go out onto the deck, needing to write the letter without looking at Elaine. I'm worried I will change my mind and whisk her away. I need to make sure my desire for her does not outweigh my plans for her safety. I face the sea as I pen the letter. Dear Elaine, I am not the best with words, but I had to write this letter to explain why I have sent you away. I cannot bear to watch you risk your life simply to save mine. I know you will not listen to me, so I found another way. A way that I'm sure you strongly disagree with. The problem is, my love for you does not allow me to sit idly by. This is the first time I'm admitting to you that I love you, and I have a feeling there is a scowl on your face because I did not say it to you when I had the chance. I intend to see you again and declare my love while I hold you close. Please don't hate me for this rash decision. I hope you will come to understand why I did what I did. When we see each other next, I will have Kaltur's tome, and we will remove that horrendous curse around your neck. Until then, please wait for me. Please have faith that I will return. Please stay safe. All my love, Magus. I finished the letter. I am content with it, though I don't think words will ever fully encapsulate my love for Elaine. I can only hope that she will not be too mad with me. And if she is, I will have the comfort of knowing she is out of harm's way. I seal the letter and hand it to Thyami, once again thanking him for taking Elaine. We will be setting off within the hour. Is there nothing else you need? I shake my head. Elaine will be far from this accursed place, and I will be able to place all my focus on my next fight. I leave the harbor and head back to the arena to find out who I will be fighting next. I locate a referee. Who are you fighting next? He repeats my question back to me like it is a stupid one. Yes, I want to know. He chuckles and shakes his head. It's the final fight. You're fighting Kaltur. He walks away before I can ask any more questions, but I don't have any. I'm fighting Kaltur. I'm invigorated knowing that Elaine's salvation is almost in my grasp.
Chapter 23. Elaine. I wake up in unfamiliar surroundings. My body is a little sore, but besides that, I feel totally fine, at least physically. I'm also incredibly confused. Based on the motion, I can tell I am on a boat, but this isn't our boat. It's much bigger. Something strange is going on, but I don't know what. At least I can find comfort in knowing Magus cannot be too far, so I get up and leave the hold to find him. I go up to the deck and find a crew of Minotaur. It looks like a typical merchant ship. On the smaller side, but well maintained. Why would Magus put us on a merchant ship? I look around for someone who can give me answers. Or better, Magus. There aren't many places where he could hide. It shouldn't be so hard for me to find him. The crew gives me strange looks as I scan the deck. I try to talk to one of them, but they ignore me and whisper amongst themselves. Well, that's rude. I'm about to cause a fuss when someone finally approaches me. He looks to be in charge, which makes me feel a little better. "You're awake," is the first thing he says to me. I did come onto this boat unconscious, so I guess me being awake is a revelation. "Yes, I am. Who are you?" I see the slightest smirk before the Minotaur opens his mouth. "I am Tiame, captain of this boat." "I am Elaine, and I am looking for my travelling companion. His name is Magus." "I know who he is," he nods. "Well, I would like to see him. Can you take me to him?" It takes everything in me not to get angry. Tiame isn't being straightforward with me for some reason. Did something happen to Magus? If we're on this boat, the tournament must be over. Maybe he was seriously hurt in his last fight. I wait to be escorted to Magus, but Tiame hands me a letter instead. "I think you should read this first." I take the letter from him and see my name written in a thick, cramped scrawl that must be Magus's hand. "What is this?" "Read it, and then you can ask me questions." He walks away. Clearly, I'm not going to get anything out of him until I do what he says. I rip open the letter and start reading. As my eyes go over the words, anger mounts inside of me. He sent me away. How could Magus do something so stupid? As if I can't protect myself. Maybe using the amulet was a little impulsive, but I'm not some little girl. He had no right. I want to tear the letter to pieces, but as I continue to read, I see Magus say he loves me. My breath catches in my throat. I did not expect to read that today. I'm still fully furious at his stupidity, but knowing that Magus loves me softens me up a little bit. Just a little bit. "Looks like you've read his letter. Did it explain the situation well enough?" I look up to see Tiame is standing in front of me again. "I need to get back to Kaltor's island. Now," I demand. I'm not about to sit around and let Magus do something stupid. How does that dingus not know by now that we are much stronger than apart? If he's not careful, he's going to get himself killed. Tiame looks amused by my request. I don't like that. "If you haven't seen, we've sailed away from there, and we're not going back. You must have some kind of life raft I can use. I'm going to get off this boat one way or another. I don't care about Magus thinking I can't handle myself because I know I can. I've been through a lot before I met him, and I'm still fine. I'm not about to let him boss me around. Look, I was paid to take you away from that island. If you want to go back, I won't stop you because I wasn't paid to stop you, but I won't help. I don't want to be on this boat anymore." "That's not my problem," Tiame shrugs. "We'll be reaching our destination in a couple days. There you can probably find a vessel to take you back, or feel free to swim, though I don't know if you'll make it." "Damn it! I don't even know where we are. I was asleep for too long. I could figure it out, but that would take time. For a second, I wonder if the shriek can be of any help, but I don't want to succumb to it again. Using it does cost a heavy price. Plus, I do have the ability to resist it. Magus is wrong. Tiame leaves me alone. The crew continues to ignore me as I stand by the side of the boat. I can't believe I'm stuck here. I know Magus needs me, but there's nothing I can do. I feel so useless. I'm the whole reason he's fighting in that tournament. If he dies... I don't even want to think about it. I just want to see Magus and tell him how incredibly stupid and selfish he's being. And that I love him. I'm sad I never got to tell him when he found a way to finally share his feelings with me. As I'm throwing myself the biggest pity party, I notice something in the water. At first I think it's a fish, but it's moving too fast. What? I watch as it approaches the boat, and then I realise it's... Coral. I say her name quietly, so no one hears me. No one's paying much attention to me anyway. I feel like an outcast among people whose names I do not know. Magus did not take into consideration my feelings on the matter. Not enough, at least. Coral soon surfaces by the boat. She is the perfect person for me to see, outside of Magus. I lean over to talk to her. Coral, what are you doing here? I sensed you were in trouble. Is everything okay? I'm fine. I just need to get off this boat. Magus is still fighting and I must get back to him. Farid is just the first of formidable opponents Magus will face. He needs me to be there for him. I need to be there or the not knowing may kill me. Well, why don't you swim? Unlike Siame, Coral is genuine in her suggestion. Oh, Coral, how can I swim that far? I don't even know which direction to go. I can guide you, she smiles. That's one problem solved, but there is still the issue of the long swim. That's nice, but how do I... My eyes trail downwards, and I see the tattoo Coral gave me. It dawns on me that I can breathe underwater. With Coral and my ability, I can get to Magus. I don't have to wait a couple days. I can get to Magus now. The swim might take a bit of time, but at least I'll be doing something. Not waiting on a boat. Okay, I'll meet you on the other side where there are less people, I whisper to Coral. Thiame did say he wouldn't try to stop me, but I don't completely believe him. I don't even know him. He seems to take his duties very seriously, despite his joking tone. I sneak off behind the captain's quarters. Thankfully, no one is hanging around there. Confident that no one can see me, I jump into the water. My body hits the waves, and I fully submerge. I open my eyes to see Coral smiling at me. I take in a deep breath. Are you ready? She asks me. I nod. We begin our swim back to Kaltur's island. My heart swells as I think about being reunited with Magus. I cannot wait to kiss him and tell him how much I love him. I can't wait to hear him say it back to me. And once the niceties are over, I'm going to wring his neck for being so dumb. The idiot.
In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Would you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?
The Immersive Fantasy Audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive.
Chapter 24. Magus. They give me a couple hours to get ready for my fight with Kaltur. It gives me a chance to take care of some of my injuries. There isn't anything serious, but I want to be in the best shape possible when I fight Kaltur. Like me, he's an arena champion. It won't be easy, but I plan on winning. I find a quiet place to patch myself up. I think about Elaine sailing away, wondering if she's woken up yet. She didn't pass out last time, which worries me. She could be unconscious for a few hours or days. There's no way to know. Thyme told me where they'd be docking, so I plan on going straight there after the tournament is over. Hopefully, Elaine will wait for me like I asked. After I defeat Kaltur, I'll go to her, and we'll finally get that amulet off of her, and I'll make sure it stays far away from us for the rest of our lives. Taking care of my injuries doesn't take long, so I go to sharpen my weapons and make sure my net doesn't have any snags. That takes up the rest of my break, before I have to return to the arena. I walk over to the massive stadium, and it is full. This is the fight everybody came for, but none of them matter. Kaltur enters the arena moments after me. He is no longer playing the accommodating host. The smirk on Kaltur's face tells me he is ready to fight. Kaltur and I both get into position, waiting for the referee to declare the start of the fight. I watch my opponent closely. I never fought Kaltur, but I remember chatter about how he fought. He liked to fight dirty. Unlike many in our society, Kaltur does not care for honor. That's why it didn't come as too much of a surprise that he had formed an alliance with dark elves. Dirty fighting never bested me. I have the skills to outsmart Kaltur even if he fights without honor. I spent much more time in the arena than him. I will win. The fight starts, and Kaltur is immediately on the offensive. He pulls out his net, going for my trident. I dodge, but barely. My muscles feel slow, as if I am on the brink of exhaustion. I'm confused. The fights before took some energy, but not that much. I shouldn't be fading this fast. Something must have... The butt of Kaltur's trident crashes into my chest, sending me to the ground. I scramble to my feet as fast as possible, but not as fast as I'd like, because Kaltur is able to take another swipe at me. This time with the other end of his trident. One of the tongs cut into my skin, drawing blood. I shouldn't be moving this slowly this early in the fight. I know how to preserve my energy in battle. Kaltur must have done something to me. Maybe that's why the fight was delayed. If he slipped me something. There are venoms that take hours or days to work. I knew something was wrong. The clothes, his demeanor. I should have trusted my instincts. I knew Kaltur fought dirty. He probably laughed while we all ate the lavish meal he set forth last night, knowing whoever made it to the end would never stand a chance against him. The bastard! At this rate, I won't survive this fight! My body is getting heavier by the second. I see Kaltur approaching me. I try to lift my trident, but my arms don't want to do what my brain is telling them to. I think about Elaine out at sea. She's probably awake, wondering if I'm alive. Will I really die without getting a real chance to say goodbye? Will I die before getting to tell her that I love her in person? I want to say the words to her and see her face when I say them, and I like to think that Elaine would say them back. I look up to the stands, wondering if these will be my final moments. My eyes wander until a streak of bright red hair comes into my vision. Everything slows down as I gaze upon Elaine's face. The two streaks of black are still in her hair that is being jostled by the wind. She looks so beautiful. There's an aura around her that makes me feel serene. I don't know if she is a vision sent to me as I approach death, or if Elaine is truly there. I wouldn't put it past her to come back after all I did to send her away. She's stubborn. And that made me fall in love with her. If these are my final moments, I want to see her. At the same time, I don't want Elaine to watch me die in front of her. Not like this. The arena housed me during my darkest times, and Elaine brought me back into the light. I won't let that darkness take me away from her. Especially if the Elaine I am seeing is real, and not a figment. And I need to show Elaine I can hold my own, so she isn't tempted to use that evil artifact again. Every time she uses it, something worse happens. There's a chance she won't survive. I need to survive for the both of us. A surge of energy enters my body, triggered by my desire to protect Elaine. I use my trident to get back onto my feet. I stagger a little bit, still shaky from the venom, but that shakiness isn't eternal. Soon, I'm back on my feet, weapon at the ready. Kaltur doesn't miss a step, though. Maybe he thinks the venom will work, or maybe he's planned for the possibility I wouldn't succumb to it. Either way, he goes for another strike, once again using his net to catch my trident. This time, I use his offensive tactic against him. Kaltur's net wraps around my trident. I don't give him a second before giving it a violent pull. Kaltur stumbles forward, but he has the presence of mind to let go. I flick his net in the other direction, out of his reach. He grabs his trident with both hands and rushes me. I get myself ready to defend against his onslaught. He reaches me and goes for a fatal blow immediately. His choice attack tells me two things. Firstly, Kaltur is impatient. He was probably hoping to end this fight quickly to show off his strength. The second thing is that Kaltur's impatience is affecting his abilities. His attack is a poor one. I dodge his trident and use his momentum to get him on the ground. He hits the dirt violently. He flips over to his back, but the second he requires to face me again gives me the time to pin him down with my trident. I stand above Kaltur, two of the prongs of my trident on either side of his neck. Normally, I would go straight for the kill, but there is something I need from him. The tome. Where is it? Kaltur looks confused for a moment before smirking. Even if... I don't need to hear the rest of his statement. I know he won't be of any help. I twist my trident, snapping Kaltur's neck and killing him. Keeping him alive is too dangerous. Him poisoning me, some of the previous strange behaviors, and his alliance with the Dark Elves prove Kaltur to be someone I would rather not have as an enemy. Elaine and I will have to find the tome ourselves, but we won't be impeded by anything with Kaltur out of the way. With the fight over, I lean into my trident, the adrenaline starting to wane. The crowd is cheering, but I don't care. I look for Elaine. She isn't in the same spot. My eyes look everywhere for her. Maybe she was never there. Maybe she's still on that boat, sailing further and further away from me. Even though I was the one who put her there, my heart sinks. I want to hold her, kiss her, be with her at this moment. I get ready to leave the arena, but a commanding voice stops me in my tracks. Magus!
Chapter 25. Elaine. I run from the stands the second Magus is victorious over Kaltur. Watching that fight was one of the worst experiences of my life. It's one thing when Magus and I are out at sea trying to survive a storm. At least in those moments I can be more helpful. Watching him in the arena, I felt completely useless. I held back from using the shriek. It upset Magus greatly last time. If things looked truly dire, I might have given in, but I wanted to give Magus a chance to get back on his feet, and he did not disappoint. Still, it tested me. I never want Magus or myself to have to go through something like that ever again. But those are thoughts for another time. My main goal is to find him, to be close to him again. I push past people not caring about anything except getting to Magus. I hear a few angry shouts as I run, but they go in one ear and out the other. People can be mad all they want. I'm about to see the love of my life again. I reach the arena entrance and see Magus about to leave, his back turned to me. I swear we made eye contact earlier. Did he already forget I was here? Maybe the rush of victory is making him loopy, or maybe he has some injuries. The beginning of the fight looked bad. Magus! I yell out his name. He freezes. I start running again, overjoyed to see him alive. Magus turns around just as I reach him. Elaine. He seems surprised to see me. Of course he is. He's the one who sent me away. Maybe it's a little childish, but the first thing I do is slap him. It doesn't do much given that Magus has around 400 lbs on me, but it does cause him shock. That's for shanghaiing me. Elaine, I'm sorry, The first time you tell me you love me is in a letter. What am I supposed to do with that? I wanted the first times I heard those words to be from Magus's mouth. He took that opportunity away from me, from us. I needed you to know in case I didn't. That's why you shouldn't have sent me away. I don't need to hear Magus's entire sentence. I know he was worried about a million different things, but together we could have faced all of his worries together. Magus, I say softly. I came in a little hot because I was carrying the anger of him sending me away, but I know he only did it because he cares about me. I take his hand in mine and take a deep breath. Together we can do anything. You understand that, right? Magus nods. I do now. I'll never shanghai you again. That is all I wanted to hear. I lean forward to let Magus know I want a kiss. He leans down and plants one right on my lips. I smile as we reunite. I never want to be parted from this big oaf ever again. We break apart, and Magus kisses my forehead before fully standing up. I love you too, just so you know. Just so I know, Magus repeats. He's clearly making fun of me. I love it when he's more playful. Knowing his background and everything he's been through, it's reassuring when Magus is able to embrace levity. And he's been doing it more often. It gives me hope for the future. Sure, I fell for Magus while he was all grumpy, but I also fell for the way he was and is trying to change, for how much he wants to be a better person. Yes, I push him playfully. I love you, Magus. I'll say it to you every day. Sheepishly, I add, if you'd like. I'd love that. And I love you more. We're both smiling like a couple of idiots. It's the glow of love. I used to look at Alyssa and think the way she fawned over Romus was gross. It also upset me because I lost my best friend. But now I have my own Minotaur to love. Now I am the icky romantic. I'd like to ask you something, Magus says. He tucks some of my hair behind my ear. Okay. I bite my lip, wondering what else there could be. I want you to be my mate. His mate. The question stalls my mind. I know about mates. Many of the species of Protheka have mates. Humans not so much, but when Alyssa became Romus' mate, she told me about it. They have this special, unbreakable bond. I didn't understand it back when Alyssa left to marry him, but I get it now. There's just this feeling of knowing. Magus is my person, and no one can convince me otherwise. Of course, I respond jubilantly. I jump and wrap my arms around him. Magus uses one of his hands to support me. We kiss again, this one longer and with more passion. I push my body into his, feeling the warmth of his body heat. My heart pounds in my chest as I realise what this means. Magus and I will be together forever, protecting one another, loving one another. I never thought I'd find love. Not like this. I always thought those lovey-dovey feelings were for other people because I was too busy adventuring. I guess it makes sense that I met my mate on an adventure. Though I am happy beyond belief, there is a sad aspect to this moment. I break our kiss and look at Magus. What's wrong? He asks. I hate to bring down the mood, but I can't help but think about forever. About the rest of our lives. That is what it means to be someone's mate, to be committed to them until death. But all I could wonder is how soon my death would come. I hate to think about Magus all alone after we just found one another. I trail off. I sigh before continuing. I can't help but think about this. I finger the amulet around my neck. How long do we really have? I ask. Is it fair of me to take Magus's chance of finding someone he can spend years with? We're going to get it off. You'll live, Magus says. But we don't know where the tome is, and Kaltor's dead. What if we don't? Don't think like that. We know it's somewhere in his home, and we have the freedom to look for it. I smile at Magus being the positive one. It does make me feel better, even if I can't say I believe we will 100% find the book. I'll stay positive, but we do need to be realistic too. We have to be prepared for what to do if we don't find it, if the rest of our lives is not that long. I rub Magus's cheek with the knuckles of my fingers. Elaine, I would trade all the years of my life to spend just one day with you. I gasp at the conviction in his voice. If we find the tome, if we don't find the tome, if we get lost at sea, or if one of many other life events happens to us, it won't change how I feel about you. I feel a tear trail down my cheek. I quickly wipe it away. Love's really turned me crazy. I will take whatever time I can get with you, as long as you'll have me. Of course I will. We stare at one another lovingly for a few more seconds before Magus puts me down. It's reassuring knowing he will be there with every step of the way. But my gloomy moment is over. Just because I know there's a chance things won't work out doesn't mean I've given up. In fact, now I'm even more determined to get this stupid amulet off of my neck. That way I can begin my life with Magus even faster. Let's go find that book. Magus agrees. We start towards Kalter's home. Chapter 26. Elaine. With Kalter out of the way, we finally have access to search for the book. The only problem is that we don't know where it is. It takes us a while to scour his home for it, simply because of the size. But it turns out that it isn't well hidden. In fact, he wanted to show off that the tome was in his possession. The tome is stored away in a glass cage, locked in a library. The glass sparkles in the light, as though it commands us to notice it. I wonder if a magical tome can sense that we're there, and why. After everything I've been through over the past few weeks, I wouldn't doubt anything anymore. As we approach, the glass lid lifts itself. We creep toward it in stunned silence, hoping that it's a good sign. The book wants to help us, even if Kalter didn't care about our plight. I can't help but wonder at the magic that runs through all of these things. The shriek, the book, Protheka itself. As a human, I have no magic of my own. Perhaps I just lack the sense that other creatures do. Still, even to me, none of it feels random or slipshod. There's some sort of a methodical force underneath all of it, it seems. It's just beyond my grasp. I don't understand it, but I certainly respect it. With my renewed sense of awe, I reach in and slowly pick up the book. The slippery leather cover feels cool and soft in my hands. The book gives off a strange smell, though not unpleasant. It smells like sunshine in a dusty attic. We carefully page through, looking for our solution. We finally locate it, reading the faded yellow pages with an intense focus. It takes me a couple of times before I'm certain that I've processed what it says. Magus lifts his head from the book, turning to me in frustration. "Where are we supposed to find a giant fire turtle?" he demands. "Don't get me wrong," he adds hastily. "I'll sail the ends of Protheka until we do. But I was hoping to wrap this up before." He trails off uneasily, and I know the part that he doesn't want to voice. Defeating Kalter isn't the end of our journey, and I'm still stuck with this cursed item. We've been considering finding the tome as our goal, and it's almost a slap in the face to remember that there's more. I'm not saved yet. I frown, sensing his worry. There's nothing I can say to cheer him up. After all that he's sacrificed, I may still die with this thing around my neck. We sit in a depressed silence when something occurs to him. He turns to me, his face lighting up. "It's time for some payback on the turtle who sank Romus's boat," he declares confidently. My eyebrows raise, digesting his words. In the boat once again, I guide him back to the waters around Skillet's Cove. This is where my current journey began, if I think about it. It didn't start the day that the shriek appeared before me, after all. It began when the first Minotaur I ever laid eyes on washed up on the shores of my village. He got there after a tragic boat wreck that left him the only survivor. The wreck was, in a way, caused by the dark elves that would later invade my hometown. The dark elves had conjured a giant sea animal as part of their nefarious plot, which the Minotaur had accidentally gotten caught up in. A fire turtle, as big as an island. And as far as we know, it must still be there in the water. It doesn't take us long to locate it, once we're in the area. A giant fire turtle is a hard thing to hide, after all. And this time, it's abandoned and on its own. No troops of dark elves fight us from their battle stations on his shell, making our job a bit easier than it was for Romus. The turtle doesn't even seem to notice us as we approach. It isn't until Magus swims toward his neck, latching on, that it begins to panic. It's a tough fight, but Magus hangs valiantly on. The turtle lurches and slaps the water, trying to throw him aside. He grips the edge of his shell, working his hands into the soft flesh underneath. He has to stop every so often, tightening his grip. The turtle is bucking wildly, and it becomes a matter of timing. If he lets go at the wrong time, he'll be cast into the sea. Finally, he disappears underneath the water. I watch with bated breath, even as the boat careens and tips wildly with the waves that the turtle creates. My arms hold the tome tightly, desperate to save it from the water. Nothing happens for a long time, and my heart clenches. I can't see him, and I crane my neck searching. Is he stuck, pinned down by this ferocious beast? But then I see the water around me begin to turn red. It's a disgusting sight, but cheers me nonetheless. I realise that he's done it. The turtle is dying. The motions of the turtle continue for some time, but grow slower and less intense. He's bleeding out and finally gives up. Magus resurfaces near the boat, and I help him back in tearfully. We steer closer so that we can use rope to flip the body. Once that's done, Magus cuts out the heart as the tome commands. The smell fills my nostrils, a terrible odour that's only made slightly better by the salty ocean that surrounds it. I crawl across the now dead turtle's belly, the tome strapped to my back. We stand next to the heart, and I try my best not to retch as we read the words from the book aloud. It takes my poor beaten nose a moment to realise that the smell in the air has changed. It's still unpleasant, but now there's a distinct burnt smell, as though something is on fire. I jerk my head up, looking around in panic. But there's nothing nearby to explain it, and our boat is still peacefully tied to the turtle in one piece. Magus is doing the same, but then he turns to me, and his eyes widen. He doesn't say a word, but his mouth hangs open in stunned silence. He gestures at the amulet around my neck, and I look down. It's glowing, a surreal purple like something from a nightmare. The skin around it is bright red. I should be panicking, I know, but for some reason I'm not. My brain processes it all as a mere point of curiosity, but I feel quite calm as I gaze down at it. I can't help but notice that, despite my skin's angry appearance, I feel no pain. Then the purple light from the jewel disappears as suddenly as it came. The necklace drops to my feet with a loud, startling clunk. I look down instinctively, watching it fall. So does Magus. Then we look up at each other. My hands fly to my neck instinctively, as if to confirm that it's really gone. He still looks shocked, but a sense of relief begins to spread across his face. "Your hair," he breathes, reaching out a hand to stroke it tenderly. "What?" I question, lifting one hand to feel for myself. There's nothing amiss that I can sense. "It's back to normal," he explains, and gestures toward the water. I lean over, seeing my reflection. Not only is the dark streak gone, but the angry red burn on my chest has already faded, as though it never happened. I look down, double-checking with my own two eyes. As it sinks in, I can't help but let out a loud whoop. I hop up and down, but the motion on our current footing leaves me off balance. Magus grabs me before I fall into the water. He laughs a little, steadying me. Then, with his hands on my waist, he pulls me in for a passionate, celebratory kiss. All is right in our world, finally. The only evidence to the contrary lies in a crumpled heap at my feet, now limp and powerless.
Chapter 27. Magus. The goddess is pleased with your union, declares the priestess, ending our mating ceremony. At this moment, standing on the altar to Zukiev, we are officially life mates, from here through eternity. Though it's really only a formality, it makes me smile nonetheless. I can't help but think that it's true. The goddess is pleased with us, and if any two ever belong together, it's us. I reach for Elaine's hand, leading her down the steps of the temple. At the end, a chariot awaits to take us to our new home. I move slowly, wondering how well she can see through the layers of thin fabric that make her dress and veil. Each individual layer is see-through, transparent on its own. But they're stacked together in an overwhelming amount that creates an opaque, finished product. It gives the illusion of being light and airy, hinting that you could see what hides underneath without ever actually making it possible. Though the material covering her face is much thinner, allowing her to breathe, I still have to wonder if it impedes her vision at all. So I take my time, careful not to rush her. I've just promised to provide love and care for her for the rest of my days. Letting her fall down a steep flight of stairs in the first few minutes wouldn't be a great move. When we reach the bottom, I gently help her into the chariot. We'll be traveling to our new home in a location Elaine helped me pick by the sea. Growing up on the water the way that she did, this was important to her. She wants to raise our future children in a spot that reminds her of the happy memories of her own upbringing. I'm too pleased by the fact that this beautiful, perfect woman is considering raising my children to even think of denying her anything that she may want. Not that I mind, of course. Minotaur are a seafaring people as well. I may pretend that I only do it to accommodate her, but the truth is that it makes me as happy as her. Elaine has been outspoken about the construction of our new residence, taking a part in it from the very beginning. I wouldn't expect anything less. And we've worked together well to ensure that it's a dream home for both of us. It's finally complete, and just in the nick of time. As we pull up in the chariot, we shoot each other an almost giddy look. This is ours, our faces say wordlessly. It's still so new that we remain impressed every time we see it, not necessarily because of its grandeur or opulence, but simply because it is ours, our home, together. I help her inside, trying hard to stamp out my impatience. Because of the ceremony preparations, this is the first time she's seen the home complete. While she's been in and out during the progress, it takes on a new level of meaning as I show her around now. It's not that I don't enjoy looking around at our new home, of course. It's so fresh that, even with our furniture brought in yesterday, it still has that distinctive smell of newness. I just find myself staring at her barely visible shape underneath the layers of her dress, wanting to skip the formalities. Finally, our tour shifts to the master bedroom, and I can wait no more. As much as Samara and I want to finish what these two characters have started, it looks like this chapter is about to get too hot for YouTube to handle.
Unfortunately, we have to pause here because their guidelines won't allow us to reveal the spiciest details.
To keep bringing you these free audiobooks, we have to follow their rules.
But don't worry. You can experience the full, unabridged version over at worldsofprotheka.com, where the boundaries of passion and fantasy collide.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off any of our unabridged audiobooks set in the rich and immersive worlds of Protheka.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
With these scenes, it will be unforgettable. She sighs happily at the thought, her head resting on my shoulder. In a few moments, she's asleep. It reminds me, in a way, of the first time that I held her after her bad dream. She spent the night on my shoulder, letting me comfort her. Though our circumstances have changed, I hope she'll always give me the joy of supporting her like this. Here's to many more years of the same, I whisper to myself, settling down to sleep beside her.
Chapter 28. Elaine. We fall asleep in our large bed, naked and curled together. When I awake later in the middle of the night, I feel myself wrapped in the sweetest warmth. There is the slightest confusion, as it takes me a moment to determine my surroundings. I am in a bed, snug and warm, but it isn't my usual one. This isn't my usual room. A soft snore behind me fills in all the missing pieces. The warmth is Magus, and the heavy thing draped across me is his arm. It comes rushing back to me in a flood of memories. We are life mates now, spending our first night together in our brand new home. At first, I just enjoy his embrace. It's nice being held like this. I let it wash over me, filling me with a sense of peace. But then something catches my attention. We're in a state of undress, skin to skin. Though we've seen each other naked before, I still find myself heating from the inside out at the thought. Nothing stands between me and him right now, not even clothing. A naughty idea occurs to me, and I try to wiggle out of his grasp. Even asleep, he won't have it. He tightens his arms so that I can't leave, pulling me closer into him instead. The gesture is tender, I must admit. But that's not what I'm looking for right now. There's something else on my mind right now. Not willing to give up, I change tactics instead. I wiggle my bottom against him, pressing into him lightly. Let's see if he can sleep through that. In a flash, he's awake. He rolls me onto my back, leaning up on one arm to look down at me. His eyes are still sleepy but aroused. "Good morning," he murmurs, leaning down and beginning to press a line of kisses from my neck to collarbone. I giggle. "Actually, I think it's night," I correct with a glance at the window. "Is it?" he murmurs indifferently, one hand sliding down the curve of my hip. "Glad to see you. Up," I inform him impishly. I was starting to get lonely. "Oh, I'm up all right," he acknowledges, catching the playful banter. His hands on my body are doing amazing things, and my breath hitches in my throat. It nearly distracts me from my original plan. But then I remember just in time what I set out to do. I push against his shoulder, encouraging him to lay down on his back. He follows my lead willingly, rolling over without a complaint. I sit up, moving to rest on my knees beside him.
This scene is about to get too steamy for YouTube's comfort. And as much as we'd love to keep going, their guidelines say we need to stop here.
To continue releasing these free audiobooks on this platform, we've got to play by the rules.
The passion doesn't end here.
Visit worldsofprotheka.com to hear the full, uncut version of this fantasy romance, and every daring moment that YouTube can't handle.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off unabridged audiobooks in the Worlds of Protheka.
Don't let YouTube hold you back. Immerse yourself in a world of magic, danger, and unfiltered passion.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
Listen unabridged and you'll never want to go back. Now that we're finally still, I notice how tired I am. It's not surprising after such an intense workout. And it is the middle of the night, after all. You better not outdo yourself, I caution him teasingly. This is night one, after all. You're going to have a lot to live up to in the future if you spoil me now. With his head resting on top of me, I can feel him yawn. Believe me, he assures me, I take your challenge quite seriously and am up to the task. Even though I can't see him, I can almost sense the way that his eyes sparkle. They always do, lit up by humour when he's being playful. "Oh, I believe you," I reply. "But it can't get much better than that." He lazily lifts his head, turning to stare at me with mock outrage. "I would almost think that you're tempting me to prove myself," he accuses. I reply with a yawn of my own. "No way." I defend myself. I'm too tired. He snuggles back against me again, sleepily. His head rests on my stomach like a pillow, his body curled up like a sleeping baby. "Good," he mutters. "I'm tired too, which is the only reason I'll let you off the hook with your wild accusations tonight. But you'll be sorry in the morning." I can't help but laugh, even if another yawn interrupts me halfway. "Are you sure about that?" There's no response, just silence. After a moment, I hear his familiar snore. I run my fingers idly through his hair. The sensation is soothing, lulling me into my own peaceful state. Before long, sleep has claimed us both, nestled together in the bed that we now share. Epilogue. Elaine. Magus and I are finally about to be done with the shriek, hopefully to remove it from our lives for good. Though its power over me ended weeks ago, we weren't sure how to properly dispose of it. I seriously considered, in haste, tossing it into the ocean forever. But I wasn't sure that was a brilliant plan, no matter how much it appealed to me. There was no telling what impact it might have on someone else, after all. Considering Prelate Jartigan believed it could bring the end of the world, throwing it out like yesterday's trash seemed a bit reckless. So, much to my dismay, we brought the damn thing home with us. We hid it away for a while, not wanting to look at it. But out of sight was not out of mind, and we sought out Prelate Jartigan for a more permanent solution. It turned out that he wasn't sure either. But he knew the Minotaur who would know, Lore, a little-known magi who studied magic and lived in seclusion in the woods. It surprised us both to learn that there was a powerful wizard among the Minotaur. Minotaur looked down on most magic use, finding it dangerous and at risk of corrupting those who wield it. It turns out that's why Lore hides his powers and remains mostly removed from Minotaur society. Largely, magic powers among a population who fears magic can be, potentially, dangerous for him. But not only that, as one of the only Minotaur with this power, he must guard carefully against temptation. It could be easy for another to sway him, using his own power immorally. He must remain impervious to attack. After much soul-searching, it seems that many of the elders have agreed the best way to do that is in isolation. Not only does it limit those who may try to engage him unethically, but by most of society not knowing he's there, they can never try. However, we've been given permission to call on him today. We're sworn to a vow of secrecy and can never tell anyone else about the experience. It doesn't seem likely that we'd try anyway. A cursed amulet that nearly kills you might sound like a great story to tell at parties, but it turns out that it's a lot more complicated to explain than you might think. Getting to his home is a series of steps, each with a different guide. The last leg of our journey has us getting in a chariot, picked up by Lore's own trusted servant. Magus tries to engage me in chatter, keeping my mind busy. But I'm quiet, though I don't know why. I know that I have nothing to fear from the amulet anymore, but somehow this doesn't feel final to me. Not the way that I hoped it would. I finger the cloth sack that holds the wretched thing. Even through the material, I feel a sense of evil. It may not be attached to me, but it's still powerful. I try to tell myself that it's all in my head. I'm overreacting. Magus finally gives up, holding my hand for comfort and silently looking out the window. I do the same, trying not to think about the creepy sensations that emanate from the bag. Rose may be gone, but it feels like she's still lurking nearby, looking over my shoulder. When we arrive, the human servant helps us from the carriage. He leads us into the house, a simple cottage with only 2 rooms. We're in the main room, which seems to be both a living room, kitchen, and dining room all in one. Seating is limited, though I'd imagine adequate for someone who rarely has company. There's only 1 couch and a chair. A small table for eating sits just behind the couch, and on the other side of the room is a fireplace for cooking. Across the fireplace mantel are a few pots, pans, and other cooking utensils. Beyond that, the room is sparsely decorated. As small as it is, it feels almost empty. I wonder how he entertains himself living here all alone, though I suppose the magic must help. The servant bows, gesturing for us to sit. We do so, settling in on the couch. I rest the bag in my lap. He marches across the room, knocking on the only other door. I assume that it's a bedroom, though I'm not entirely sure. Then he snaps his fingers, and suddenly the servant is gone. In his place is a Minotaur, young and healthy-looking. He's not as buff as Magus, but he still appears quite fit. He chuckles to himself and walks back toward us. "I'm just kidding." He laughs a little. "Forgive me. I guess when you live alone you have to find ways to pass the time. It seemed like a good joke in the moment." Magus looks confused, but then relaxes at the Minotaur's casual demeanour. He clearly means no harm, though it's all a bit strange. It takes me another beat to finally put it all together. "Oh!" I blurt out. "You're Lore!" I blush, both because I feel a bit stupid and because of my lack of formality. "I mean the Magi, sir." I try to correct hurriedly. He waves a hand dismissively, plopping into the chair across from us. No need, he assures me. I still have 2 horns like the rest of you. He chuckles again, gesturing at Magus. Well, like him anyway. He's quite an odd fellow, and Magus and I exchange a look. I don't think either of us know quite what to make of him, but it's not like we have much choice. It's not that I don't trust him, as much as I can't figure him out. I'm not sure if I'm more put off by his behaviour or his appearance. He certainly doesn't look like what I imagined, for an old wizard living in the woods. Namely, he isn't even old. Magus clears his throat, trying to get us back on track. I assume that Prelate Jartigan has explained the reason for our visit, he begins. Law nods briskly, finally serious. Yes, of course, he says somberly. Well, let's see it then. He holds out a hand, and I nervously pluck the bag off my lap. I'm eager to be rid of the thing and find myself nearly throwing it at him. Law seems nonplussed by my reaction, deftly catching the bag mid-air. He unties the drawstring that holds the bag closed, opening the mouth. Then he peers inside with one eye. He pulls the bag away from his face, reaching in to remove the shriek. It dangles from his fingertips, twirling in a circle as he examines it. Finally, he lets out a low whistle. This is high magic, he declares, though I don't know what that means. This was bonded to you? Yes, I clarify. He shakes his head, looking amazed. Impressive. Many would have hit their edge, coming across something like this. You must be strong-willed to resist it like that. She's the toughest human there is, Magus says loyally, squeezing my hand. I'm not so sure that it's true, but I appreciate the gesture. I squeeze his hand in return, to show my thanks. Law spins the ribbon around his finger, then returns the amulet into the bag. Consider your job done, he says. You've served your role well, but I'll take care of it from here. You're free. My hand flutters to my neck, still recalling how it felt. I guess I am, I agree, laughing a little. It feels comforting to hear him say that, as though I can finally believe it. He sees us to the door, cracking another joke about how he has a big party coming over soon. Once he's done laughing, he assures us that we don't have to rush off so soon. But I just want out of there, far away from that artifact of evil. In the carriage, he steers us back, beginning the long process of our return home. All alone in the cabin, Magnus gives me a shaky grin. I guess that's the end of that. I guess, I reply, trying to keep my voice steady. I just can't get rid of the nagging doubt in my head that says otherwise. Maybe not for me. No, for me I have my perfect life carved out on the water's edge. But that amulet has to go somewhere, and I fear for whoever it falls to next.